cursed world. The longer you live, the more you will realize that the only things that truly exist in this reality are merely pain, suffering, and futility. Listen. Everywhere you look in this world, wherever there is light, there will always be shadows to be found as well.
Welcome, everybody. Say everybody. There's only 2 people other than my backup account watching, but welcome Darcy and Glynis, and hopefully you guys enjoyed that little brand new intro. So you were the only ones that got to appreciate that so far. If or not anyone will watch this in a rerun, who knows? We'll wait and see. So Darcy, thank you. You know you're my favorite YouTuber, T, and Glynis says T is cool. Well, the 2 of you who have tuned in, welcome. We are going to be talking a little bit about Out Apocolypse. Who knows if anybody else is going to arrive in due time, but the regular offenders should know at the regular time at 9 p.m. Friday. I did sort of tease a little bit last week that we might come back on Thursday night, but due to the fact I had some other arrangements yesterday, very beautiful, nice springtime weather, was out and about. But here we are, Friday the 26th of March 2021. All Out Apocolypse is the title of this evening's stream, which so far we have a very poor amount of viewers. So maybe someone are trying to be a little bit fashionably late, or perhaps we do know the usual routine with the Gusset Girls, although I haven't actually shared the link as much as I probably should have done. So why don't I try and do that now? See if we get a couple more folks rolling on in before we do get into the thick of things this evening. Where am I going? Let's go over to Discord first. So feel free to go and let anybody you know that might appreciate the fact that we are live this Friday night, that we are indeed live this Friday night. So let's get back to the proceedings. Still only 2. Oh, that's because I just lost myself out of the chat a second there. Never mind. Well, hello Martha. Slowly and surely the credits arrive to the proceedings. But what we were going to try and do a little bit this evening was kind of bridge the gap of where we left off last weekend with the zombie apocalypse decoded stuff, and where we're going to be heading hopefully tomorrow with some more interactions. Hopefully, fingers crossed, we get a panel for you, and if or not, we get a couple of guest callers. Remains to be seen, but we do be going in to tomorrow with the all-out alien agenda. But tonight we're going to, as I said, bridge a little bit of the gap, sort of follow up from the zombie apocalypse decoded series of streams we did last weekend. 3 in a row. We had 2 fantastic streams, Friday and Saturday. Sunday, due to our friends, I'm sure the YouTube community standard team in our good old buddy, the artificially intelligent algorithm, caused us a few hiccups with getting that stream up and running, and as a result we didn't get as many people tuning in, and it didn't get as many views as the previous 2, but we're up to 7 now. Welcome, Mrs. Owl. Glad to see you have arrived with your thumbs up there in silent commentary in the background. But the fact of the matter was that sort of out of last week, the Friday and the Saturday stream, I don't think we've had as much interaction as we did come out of the chat. A lot of interest. We had a lot more sort of people come in to watch certainly the Saturday night stream, because I think, you know, the girls that were part of the panel, they told some of their friends and relatives and such forth that come to the proceeding. And even not only that, you know, by the time that I sort of shut the stream down and checked the quick stats, we had more people watch that in the time that it aired than I have any of my other streams. So the fact that it was so very interactive, we had also a great call from Almel, wherever she may be right now, but it was a very interactive sort of series of streams, and you know, that's kind of what I'm trying to do, get a little bit more of you guys interactive, share some of the news in articles, in things that you may see in your neighborhood, and you know, previously to the zombie stuff, aliens do seem to be a very popular topic, and there ain't no shortage of alien related articles in the news feeds, as well as the startling, stark revelation that there could quite possibly be a zombie apocalypse coming our way in 2021. 2021 is the sequel to 2020 that brought us the scam pandemic cyber. It also brought us a lot of strange and weird other sort of news-worthy stories that sort of crept in but got forgotten about, such as murder hornets, as well as an increase and a rise on UFO sightings. Is this all part of a bigger agenda? Is this part of the program? Is COVID the smokescreen? And not only here in its infancy at Reality Decoded, some of these topics we have already covered. Certainly, we've mentioned a little bit of the aliens, and obviously last weekend we had the zombie apocalypse decoded stuff, which, you know, when we look at various ways that they could indeed induce and carry out a controlled zombie apocalypse, there are at least three possible ways. Sorry, my phone's buzzing from a text message, which has distracted me a little bit. But hey honks, good to see you showing up. So the fashionably late are becoming fashionably late. Hold on a second. Let me just address this. And we'll get back to it. But as we were saying, there are an alarming amount of realistic possible ways that a zombie apocalypse could be induced or carried out by the elites. We looked at great length and extent last weekend, you know, at some of these ways that can do. That they could induce this, but not only that, over back at TSP TV through last year, we did look a lot at the alien agenda, particularly Project Bluebeam, and again looked at all the technology and the equipment that does exist, patterns, all this stuff that they would need in order to carry out an alien, a fake alien attack. So, you know, this isn't clutching at straws, this isn't sort of tinfoil hat stuff. We're looking at all the possibilities, all the realities, and the fact that if all this equipment exists that can carry out these things, then what on earth was the purpose of this equipment if not able to utilize it for whatever purposes they feel that they need to use it for? So I've lost my Chromecast connection there, having difficulties with multi things going on at once. It's always the way. You get no text messages for a week, and then when you're on the phone or doing something, then everything goes all at once. Maybe that is a little bit of the algorithm talking there. But all of these things are also stuff that has made it into mainstream news headlines, onto, you know, what could be considered, although far from reputable news publications, magazines, newspapers. All of this stuff has been rich with talk of the alien agenda, and you know, the government, the Pentagon have been out in released documents and saying, yeah, you know, there are things out there that we can't really explain that could quite well be extraterrestrial beings with far superior technology to that which we own now. There is a reality, a possibility that they could indeed be visitors from other planets, or there could be the even stronger possibility that they could be Earth-based aliens with technology that's far more advanced than they let us know we've got. There's a lot of classified stuff going on. In sort of where 2020 ended, 2021 didn't stop with the alien agenda, and just before Donald Trump went out, there was some kind of proposal put to Congress in the United States that was actually put ahead of trying to get people back to work, open up, stop this scamdemic shit, regarding documentation being made public within 180 days of this being issued. So there does seem to be an awful lot of programmatics going on in terms of the alien agenda. Project Bluebeam is one of those little sort of deep state conspiracy theories that I've always had a keen interest on, and also, you know, with regards of aliens, that was sort of pretty much one of my level entry conspiracy theories, governmental cover-up type you know, themes or genres, and mainly fueled from the fiction that I watched as a kid, you know, in the movie theaters and on VHS, and in particular E.T. Close Encounters of the Third Kind. huge influence on me on a child, and particularly in making me interested in UFOs. And now kind of 2021, we don't really blink an eye, and it's almost a given, a foregone conclusion that there is something out there, and they are are visiting us. And are we about to see sometime in the next coming weeks and months an announcement of this? But not only that, we've also heard reports that there are asteroids and meteorites and such other sort of space debris, I guess, for want of a better word, that is falling into the atmosphere. Now, is all of this connected? Are all these pieces being put together in part of the puzzle of our reality? And are they about to unleash all-out apocalypse, Armageddon, the end of days, biblical proportions, waves, weather, ghosts, demons, aliens, zombies, earthquakes? It can all happen. They have all the technology to manipulate the weather. They can create weaponized weather systems in terms of earthquakes, tsunamis, hurricanes. All possible. They can electromagnetically brainwash us into believing that we're seeing things that aren't really there. They can turn us with electromagnetic frequencies into rage-based zombies. They can introduce us to drugs of a synthetic nature that would also induce us into rage-based zombies. We've got not only the CDC telling you that it's time to have a little bit of zombie apocalypse preparedness. What is all the part and parcel of the purpose of all of this, other than to program us for some way? Welcome, Feinzer, I don't know how to say that. Zone 9B, are you a newbie to the Reality Decoded crew? If so, welcome. Glad to have you here. Stick around. But this is a little bit. We are, are we living in the end of days? And in some, not just biblical, but other religious kind of end of days prophecies have, locusts, plagues, famine, pestilence, all of this stuff. And this is all sort of stuff that we are kind of seeing very much in our each and every day. Oh, hello, another name change, Aztec. Is it a new account, or is it just rename? Welcome, Marduk. Glad to see you. Missed you last weekend, buddy. You were texting me at the start of this stream, but I will forgive you this once, twice, and forever. Not to worry about that. And hopefully you will be on the phone tomorrow to talk about some of your alien experiences with that. But the zombie thing, where we left off last week, we've got the CDC telling us to ramp up our zombie apocalypse preparedness and awareness. And not only that, we've got psychological professors that are conducting experimentation and research. In fact, they're decoding fiction all of their own. They're getting a whole lot of funding from the government in order to do so. Some of your taxpayer dollars also are going to this funding, into classifying and categorizing two types of zombies and their behavioral patterns. Decoding fiction for reality purposes, right there for you guys. I can ask for a better example than that. But more startlingly, that within that categorization of zombieism and zombie behavior, they categorize zombies as two types: CDHD type 1, CDHD type 2, CD, COVID, CD. You see what I'm saying there? It might be a little bit of a stretch of the imagination tying those two strings together, but not really. You've got the C and you've got the D. And another thing in possibility, that there are two types of zombies that could be induced, either with electromagnetic frequencies, things that can be delivered through our cell phone, or things that can be delivered to us in a form of synthetic drugs. Now, what if, in this scenario developed, is to where you created a whole bunch of docile, slow, brain, old school George A. Romero Night of the Living Dead style zombies on one side of the city, and then on the other side of the city you induced rage-based zombie type 2 outbreak. So you sort of got these slow ones and these rage ones. They're really fast, they're really slow. One side of that city could potentially become the cattle, or the victims, or the prey, or the hunted for the angry based ones. They're slow, they can't get away, they're not going to look up from them screens, or in that kind of shuffle mode like we see with the pokey zombies. And We've seen what Flacker, bath salts, the K2, the spice, all these synthetic drugs, they can create a zombie rage-like effect on those that take it. So, it's not too much of a stretch of the imagination to see what would happen if, as I said, you experimented making slow zombies on one side, fast on the other. And again, you don't need to affect everybody. If you've got, somebody that can have for a very short amount of a time the rage and adrenaline levels pumped up to the highest level, they can withstand and go and cause a little bit of distress and destruction in violence amongst the immediate populace that is around them. All you need to do is kind of cut somebody's throat, bite somebody's face, and there you go. Do you see what I'm saying? But anyway, I'm gonna jump into the presentation a little sooner this evening because I think it might be a little longer than the couple of previous ones that we had before. Let me see if I can find it. There you go. And into place, because I actually did put together the presentation a couple of days ago, so I've lost a little bit of my train of thought from where we went. So hopefully by me rewatching it I will refresh myself. But is all the things that we're reading that is possibly part of our predictive program or our programmatics, the seed planting, getting us used to the idea that there might be a zombie apocalypse, there might be an alien invasion, there might be an asteroid? Is this all to do with our all-out apocalypse? Are we choosing our own reality? Has fiction in the last sort of decade that it is really put a lot of these kind of doomsday type scenario genre movies and TV shows and books and stuff out there? Is this all part of where we are heading? So with no further ado, guys, microphone. So welcome everybody to this part of the feature presentation of this evening's Reality Decoded live stream, where we are looking at All Out Apocolypse. And the reason why in the last set of streams that we did last weekend, where we kind of decoded the zombie apocalypse and looked at the stark revelation that it's all too possibly real, I come across this little article from the Chicago Tribune, which by all accounts should be quite a reputable publication, but of course be very aware it is part of the mainstream mind control propaganda machine. But this was an article that came out quite recently, and you can kind of see already on the screen, op-ed, zombies, murder hornets, and UFOs. There's nothing we can't handle after this year of COVID-19. Now, the reason I'm bringing you this article, because these are all things we spoke about, not only here at Reality Decoded, particularly in the UFO and zombie category of that list of three things there, but we also spoke about murder hornets back over on TSP TV when we first heard about their arrival on the scene during the very early days of the pandemic. And here we are a little bit, my apologies for that, later, 1 year, over 1 year now into the pandemic, and this is resurfaced along with the possibility and the threat that there might well be a zombie apocalypse on the outbreak. Now, how are all these things connected is what I'm trying to join the dots, and we're also trying to sort of blend in last week's streams with the zombies into this coming weekend, where we're going to be hopefully looking at some alien agenda type content, and hopefully some of you guys will be participating in that with articles, stories, call-ins, maybe even a panel, but that is to be determined. But back to this article, you can see there's some individuals. This little header thing does disappear in a minute, believe me, but it's a bit annoying right now, I do understand. But we've got some individuals here looking a little bit science fiction, space age in their suits there, in their gloves. And apparently this was some individuals that in Washington State Department of Agriculture workers, that is who we were just looking at, disconnect hoses of a cluster of murder hornets that had been vacuumed from a tree on October the 24th, 2020. So that was sort of some months after we heard about the first arrival of murder hornets, particularly on the west coast. And that was, sort of 6 or so months into the this pandemic that they were still sort of making a little bit of news worthy articles of their existence. But with all the sort of other stuff and shenanigans going on with the psyop that is the planned scamdemic COVID-19, many people didn't notice these little things that they may be introducing that might be sinister sources of weaponry that will be possibly used against us, and they could even possibly carry out and be the potential delivery system of the Z virus. But let's discover that as we progress. They are not locusts, the article says, but they might as well be billions of beady-eyed cicadas digging their way out of the soil in 15 eastern states this spring. And after 17 years of tunneling around underground, it definitely feels like a biblical type plague on the horizon. A plague on top of a plague we're already in, that is. And he's referring, of course, to the COVID scamdemic. But the insects aren't even the only thing we have to worry about emerging from the ground after this long, bleak pandemic winter of our discontent. No, the Walking Dead are also making a comeback, or so we're told. Nostradamus, that 16th century French astrologer who made predictions in poem form for fun, prophesied a zombie apocalypse in 2021. According to those who are in the know about this sort of thing, aka internet posters. But that might explain why the zombie preparedness guide developed by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention is making the rounds again online. And they go on to emphasize, yes, you heard that right. Again, it turns out there's been a zombie preparedness page on the CD site since at least 2011. I've already looked at that previously over the weekend at the during the Zombie Decoded series. We did a trilogy of streams on that, so we're not going to click on that link. So you should, if you do follow along, be very aware the CDC are promoting a zombie preparedness, and that was something we talked about with our panel. And Maiden Montana, our wench was very concerned about some of the stuff that the CDC was providing as part of that preparedness protocols that they have on their website. You can go and pop that in to your search engine of choice and look it up all for yourselves if you can't remember what we did talk about this time last week. But the self-described tongue-in-cheek campaign, and what do we say about never a truer word than that being said in jest, and in brackets it says, which includes such helpful advice as pick a meeting place for your family to regroup in case of zombies invading your home. But this got some attention when it debuted a decade ago, but its time is clearly right now. Whether it's murder hornets, mask mandates, pantless office meetings until Jeffrey Toobin ruined that, or hundreds of people storming the US Capitol on a belief that Satan worshipping pedophiles were undermining Donald Trump's presidency, there has never been more of a surreal year in modern American stroke global history. And share if you agree. I agree wholeheartedly. There has not been a weirder and more wonderful in the wrong ways year than 2020 and what is turning out to be 2021 so far. And this is what I'm saying. We can't rule out anything at this juncture in time regarding the apocalypse. And are they going all out with the end of days scenarios? Plagues, locusts, famine, pestilence, aliens, zombies. Is it all going to go down in one foul swoop to end our days here as the dominant species on the planet? But then again, we're only dominant because some of us do have weapons. If there's more lions and tigers and bears, oh my, we might be wiped out. And that's why they may be introducing murder hornets, aliens, and zombies to the stage of events. And again, all pretty much every not every, but nearly a vast majority, a high percentage of zombie fiction, be it movies or TV series, kind of start with an outbreak of some sort. But since the first COVID-19 lockdowns 1 year ago, we have been hit with one unbelievable scenario after another. We don't even flinch at the news of the weird anymore, and it's very, very true. Swarms of insects are set to invade the outdoors, you say? Question mark. The one place where it's solidly safe to socialize, of course they are. Actual locusts have been wreaking havoc in some African countries, destroying crops and livelihoods for months now. Crunching cicades, I don't know if I'm saying that right, cicadas beneath your feet is nothing compared to that. Um, Shuttered schools yawn, ballpark seats populated with cardboard cutouts shrug, donning a plastic face shield and hazmat suit to take a flight. Yeah, yeah. Capacity limits at Target, people brawling over toilet paper, virtual funerals, weddings, and divorces. Monoliths appearing and disappearing in scenic locations, the Pentagon releasing video footage of a UFOs, a fire nado in California, mystery seeds mailed from China, the return of the Christmas star after nearly 800 years. And that was all things that happened in 2020, and it says that exactly there, been there, done that. But in the past year, we have weathered targeted attacks on US mail, our democratic election system. We watched as a white Minneapolis police officer slowly choked the life out of a black man on video. We've seen our US Capitol overtaken by face painted conspiracy theorists, and most tragically endured the COVID-19 deaths of more than 500,000 people. Although people do die each and every single day, and if you did categorize every single death as COVID-19, then it would be quite a larger number. Exactly. What they've been doing is manipulating death figures and counting COVID cases as COVID deaths, but in this country and 5 times that number worldwide, apparently. But what's a zombie apocalypse after all? This past 52 weeks has toughened us. We don't scare it easily anymore, nor are we shocked or rattled by small things. We've been through the big things, and now we can roll with a lot more than we ever thought was possible. Collectively, society has become more resilient over the past year. I'm not sure if that is entirely true, but even in the face of death, adapting to survive and occasionally even to thrive. Take the Kenyan startup, aptly named The Bug Picture, that began harvesting the swarming locusts as protein rich farm feed, or the thousands who took to the streets to protest police brutality and secure real reforms in state legislators, or the first person to come up with the coronavirus pinata, or for the restaurants that turned their parking lots into fresh fruit markets, or the rainbow makers who splashed colors in their windows to brighten the view for others. It's been a year like another, we continue to say with the article. Getting to today with its 3 vaccines in circulation and case counts falling, is it an achievement? Take a moment to remember that. Then plan your zombie evacuation route. If the pasture is straight up taught us anything, it's you never know what is possible. And that was courtesy of the Tribute Content Agency. So an interesting little article there. I mean, they didn't actually sort of elaborate too much on the UFOs or the murder hornets. And we're not going to elaborate too much on the zombie issue, but just to show you, in case you don't want to go and look it up for yourself and you don't remember last week, this is the CDC website here, Center for Disease Control, and here is the zombie preparedness article here. We've already read that last week. You can quickly glance at that if you want. And they have a preparedness blog. They have a preparedness pamphlet for educators looking to teach preparedness in the classroom. We've got full lesson plans and you to use to adapt for your students, a preparedness poster, and the graphic novel. And those are some of the things that the CDC website does have available to download and use for your own purposes. And there you go. Preparedness 101, Zombie Pandemic, Preparedness Ideas for Educators. After the successful zombie preparedness campaign in 2011, an overwhelming number of educators requested zombie-themed preparedness activities for school-aged children. This website was created to help all educators teach middle school-aged children the basics of emergency preparedness and response using a fun, fictitious scenario. How fictitious is it? Preparedness ideas for educators. I wonder if that will in fact be anything about zombies. Feel free to modify these activities, pass them along and share them for your own preparedness lesson plans with us. There are some school-wise directives there. Emergency response, detectives, is that what it says? Yeah, disease detectives, kit checklist, backpack, graphic novel, scavenger hunt, all sorts of stuff for kids to do within a fictitious zombie realm. I'm going to click on this, see what they're saying.
Good morning, agents. I have some bad news. Terrible news. You're going to have to work together as a team. And no, that's not the bad news. An increasing number of citizens in remote areas are disappearing. As more people disappear, the number of gruesome, unexplained deaths is increasing, especially at night. We've identified the perpetrators as difficult to kill, flesh-eating zombies. Unfortunately, the number of undead is rapidly increasing, and the victims have been reappearing as perpetrators. Survivors are running scared, and citizens are starting to panic. We're seeing a breakdown of peacekeeping and medical services throughout the nation, and key officials have been compromised. Your mission, if you choose to accept it, is to ensure your community is prepared for a zombie apocalypse. Your teacher has further information regarding the situation. Thank you, agents, and good luck.
Well, there you go. That's quite interesting. After all, so a little, obviously fictitious reading from a script. But how soon is it going to be before we start seeing and hearing that for real on our TV screens and social media platforms, warning us to be prepared for a zombie pandemic? So as I said, that was from the CDC website, and we saw an interesting little article previously from the Chicago Tribune that we sort of followed the link to the CDC website from about zombies, UFOs and murder hornets. So we're going to go and look now at a couple of commercials that have not been recent but have been put out over the last few years. One is which is from Foot Locker, and one is from a good old Apple and an iPhone or a app development advertisement for iPhone software, which for some reason chose to use all-out apocalypse scenarios for those ad campaigns. So stay tuned as we are going to dive a little bit deeper into all-out apocalypse.
Are reeling as the meteor storm, zombie epidemic, and alien encounters continue unabated. Safe to say, this is the best week ever.
What are you doing? Run! It's the week of greatness. What you doing? It's really happening! This is the real thing!
Nah, man. This is the real thing. Are you wearing the new Icon Clash?
I need this in a size 8.
I need a 6.
I need this at a 16.
I got you.
Not today.
Is it dead?
That's not dead.
He's a lit. Hell yeah. Hey kid, where are you headed? You know it's the end of the world, right?
Yeah, but it's the start of a week of greatness.
My desk is on the 7th floor. If you need anything, you can call me. Make sure to keep your ID with you because you're going to need to badge in every time you re-enter. Cafeteria is on the 4th floor, and we generally take lunch about 12:30.
This is where I'm sitting?
With the big move coming up, it's kind of crazy around here. I promise it's only temporary.
All right, thank you. Where are we, man? I don't know, man. I don't even know what city we're in. Look out!
Are declaring a global state of emergency until the app situation can be resolved.
Selfies! Hey, buddy! Selfies! Selfies!
Okay, who wants to go?
iTunes. Get to iTunes.
Do you think we should have gone with the puppy face?
I just ate this whole pizza by myself. Hashtag too delicious to share. Hashtag pizza emoji.
Farm bill 2 right here, y'all.
Hashtag Instafood.
Brian, looking for Brian.
Hashtag does anybody want a slice?
Crazy times, huh?
The end of the world is just the beginning. Aftermath premieres.
Saw a very short and sweet trailer teaser for a TV show that no longer is airing called Aftermath. This, I believe, was a Canadian show that aired in around 2016-2017 for 13 episodes. And what made Aftermath particularly interesting in there is the cast of characters, the family that ends up having to survive the apocalypse, but not any ordinary apocalypse or any one specific apocalypse. Hell to the no, these poor individuals have to let me get rid of that, sorry a second. They have to survive pretty much every single end days prophecy all at once, with a whole bunch of other apocalyptic scenarios thrown in to boot, and they did this all while driving around in an RV. It was a very interesting show, and I actually was a little bit disappointed that it didn't run for another season. But a quick description, this is a little bit of fiction decoding for you. This science fiction drama series follows the Copeland family coping through lands of apocalypse. They try to survive as the world as we know it starts to come apart. The patriarch Josh Copeland is a university professor, and he is a study of world cultures and beliefs come in handy when the end of days draws near, and he has to help his family survive. And his wife Karen, funny enough, is a fierce protector of her family, and to keep her husband and 3 children safe, she draws on her combat skills and survival training she received as an Air Force pilot. You got a star athlete of a son. You got a sort of rebellious daughter and a couple of youngsters there. But the clock is ticking for the finale, episode 13. There are 2 hours left until space junk collides into Earth and kills everybody. And this is after the calamity of demons, flying beasts, crazy weather situation, flacker-like zombies, you name it. It is a fascinating series. But they've got 2 hours to survive before space junk destroys everybody, and that is kind of how it finished up. I don't even remember how it finished up, but I did watch it. So as I said, we're not going to really read all of this, but it was just very interesting that this TV show come out. It really did depict each and every sort of end days sort of religious prophecies, as well as some other sort of sci-fi related doomsday doomsday apocalyptic depictations that some of us may be all too familiar with. And it was particularly interesting that the Foot Locker and the sort of Apple commercials that we just saw sort of also contained that theme of all out apocalypse, everything happening all at once in a is this our predictive programming right there, guys? Are we about to see fire, brimstone, ashes, the dead rising from the graves, the demons pouring out of interdimensional portals, and all weather breaking loose on hell, or hell on earth, as they go on to say? Who knows? Don't take my word for it, but there's an awful lot of stark revelations in stuff out there. Whether weaponized modification systems, electromagnetic frequency, mind control, weaponry, holographic technology, augmented reality, fear, psyops that are being programmed into our brain 24/7 through newsfeed and mainstream media. It is all going on. We are in somewhat apocalyptic days, as we are, each and every minute that passes, we're in an apocalypse, but it hasn't sort of got as cool as the movies make it or TV shows make it out. And, there's been so many apocalyptic genres, not just zombies in the last sort of decade or so. It has also been somewhat programmatic, I believe, in part and parcel of what our own choose our reality end of days real life role playing apocalypse is going to be like. Because as I said, they sort of seem to be pulling out all the stops. We sort of got all the ingredients for a zombie outbreak. We've got crazy weather, mind control technology. All of this can be used as weapons against us, and probably is and will be used to its furthest and highest extent possible, as the elites do rule out the end of days. But we are going to look a little bit more into some other stuff, but we are as we progress through this presentation, but we're going to look a little bit more now at these insect drones, DARPA Insect Ally Project, and the correlation between those and possibly delivering the Z virus and the murder hornets that we are hearing about. But Aftermath, very interesting show. Check it out if you can find it on one of your streaming apps of choice. You won't be sorry. It's a good way to spend a couple of evenings binge watching on some apocalypse and maybe getting some survival tips and training skills of your own. But along with that, in sort of the Walking Dead, Z Nation, there was even another series, I can't remember now what was called, Revolution. It sort of took place after a sort of EMP strike. All of these sort of very similar apocalyptically themed forms of entertainment have been a saturation of our streams, our screens, the large and small of the theaters and TV households. So there has to be a purpose for it, and this is why they are bringing these things all to our attention, because as I said, they might be pulling out all the stops and bringing us all the end of days scenarios that they could possibly throw at us. So as I said, let's go and look a little bit deeper into some of these DARPA insect ally and insect drone projects, and are they being weaponized to deliver viruses? Wait and see.
Wake up to reality. Nothing ever goes as planned in this accursed world. The longer you live, the more you will realize that the only things that truly exist in this reality are merely pain, suffering, and futility. Listen. Everywhere you look in this world, wherever there is light, there will always be shadows to be found as well.
During World War I, hundreds of thousands of people were killed or maimed by chemical weapons. After the war had finally ended, it seemed certain that this would be the future of warfare. But those who had seen the horrors wrought by chemical weapons worked hard to prevent their future use, destroying 97% of the world's stockpile. As a result, the world was made a safer place, with the freedom to follow other pursuits. Chemical warfare was a frightening new idea, even at its inception. But not all ideas appear sinister at first glance. Wartime technologies are often extensions of peaceful technology that already exists. This is an example of what is commonly called dual use. When new technologies are developed, we consider the many ways we intend to use them. But it is more important to consider the ways that others might use them, or even misuse them. Over the last 30 years, genetically modified viruses have successfully been used within contained laboratories. Soon, they could be used as a common therapy to treat cancer and a wide range of diseases. Genetically modified viruses are normal viruses that have had extra DNA added to them. This allows them to do things they could not have done before. Until today, scientists have not intentionally released genetically modified viruses into the environment, barring several tightly controlled exceptions. The problem with any deliberate release is that, in many cases, it is difficult to control where the viruses will end up. We know of thousands of natural plant viruses, but none are known that can edit a plant's chromosomes. However, man-made viruses can be created to edit chromosomes across species. A new program called Insect Allies aims to use this kind of gene editing technology to help farmers and communities protect their crops. Until now, this technology has only been used indoors, but the military agency funding this program is interested in releasing it outside. While their idea is not new, it has never been done before. Farmers spend a lot of time worrying about how to protect the health of their crops from hazards. With Insect Allies, armies of insects would be infected with man-made viruses that are designed to directly target their crops. These viruses would be used to strengthen the plants against a wide selection of hazards. As a result, the main focus of this project is on viral dispersal. The Insect Allies themselves would only serve as viral vectors. For this plan to succeed, scientists would need to be prepared for anything. When the alarm sounds, they would need to quickly infect insects with the correct virus, transport them to farmers, and release them. The insects would then be able to distribute their infections to crops. To be useful in any capacity, all of this would require global infrastructure. It would need warehouses designed to house insects year-round, and staff to breed and maintain them. These insects would also require safeguards that would prevent them living and breeding beyond their one-time use. Without these kill switches, there would be a risk of the virus mutating and spreading, as pathogens tend to do. Unfortunately, it is still unclear how the spread of a genetically modified virus would be controlled. Should we be worried? The designers of the Insect Allies program claim that they can greatly assist farmers in protecting their crops, much to everyone's benefit. However, this kind of technology can easily be used to sabotage and control access to resources on a local or global scale. Right now, scientists are hard at work to safely develop Insect Allies. They are using multitudes of kill switches to prevent unintended outbreaks. But is this enough? With the appropriate resources, it would be easy for anyone to turn off these safeguards and cause a deliberate outbreak. This would create a new and highly targetable form of biological weapon, one that is undetectable and untraceable. It can be hard to predict the future. Today's technologies can become tomorrow's weapons. So, knowing all of this, do we really want to go viral? And what can we do to control its possible use?
Pilots directed almost 3,000 precision strikes last year. We're super proud of it. It allows you to separate the bad guys from the good. It's a big deal. But we have something much bigger. Your kids probably have one of these, right? Not quite. Hell of a pilot? No. That skill is all AI. It's flying itself. Its processor can react 100 times faster than a human. The stochastic motion is an anti-sniper feature. Just like any mobile device these days, it has cameras and sensors, and just like your phones and social media apps, it does facial recognition. Inside here is 3 grams of shaped explosive. This is how it works. Did you see that? That little bang is enough to penetrate the skull and destroy the contents. They used to say guns don't kill people. People do. Well, people don't. They get emotional, disobey orders, aim high. Let's watch the weapons make the decisions. Now, trust me, these were all bad guys. Now, that is an airstrike of surgical precision. It's one of a range of products. Trained as a team, they can penetrate buildings, cars, trains, evade people, bullets, pretty much any countermeasure. They cannot be stopped. Now, I said this was... Why? Because we are thinking big. Watch. A $25 million order now buys this. Enough to kill half a city. The bad half. Nuclear is obsolete. Take out your entire enemy, virtually risk-free. Just characterize him, release the swarm, and rest easy. These are available today. We have a distribution network taking orders from military, law enforcement, and specialist clients.
The nation is still recovering from yesterday's incident, which officials are describing as some kind of automated attack, which killed 11 U.S. senators at the Capitol building.
They flew in from everywhere, but attacked just one side of the aisle. It was chaos. People were screaming.
You can see high windows, very small, precisely punctured to gain entry to the building.
What did you do for the victim?
I just did what I could for him. Things weren't even interested in me. They're just buzzing.
Government sources admit the intelligence community has no idea who perpetrated the attack, nor whether it was a state, group, or even a single individual.
So if we can't defend ourselves, then we strike back.
We are investing very heavily in classified defense projects.
We make it our deterrent like our nuclear deterrent. We stockpile in the millions, the billions.
At key facilities. The White House, the New York Stock Exchange.
So there was a little interesting dramatization of a tech company that were advertising their insect weapon drones that can deliver a very, very small explosive to the tip of the head and explode the brain almost instantly. Or it could also be used, as we saw before, to deliver a virus. And here is an article from Live Science saying that the Pentagon wants to make an army of virus-spreading insects, and scientists are concerned. And this is from October the 5th, 2018. There's a picture of an insect on a tree for you there. But can a task force of insects carrying genetically modified virus save America's farms, stroke in brackets, this is my addition for you, or spread a targeted pathogen virus to society in dense populated areas, targeting depending on whether or not you have been struck up on the radar, and the recipient to receive an uncontrollable modified virus that you can't see or detect, that will be delivered to you courtesy of an insect drone. But let's get deeper in. This is a debate that is swirling around a controversial new Pentagon research called Insect Allies, funded by the Defense Advanced Research Project Agency, DARPA. The project involves using a gene editing technique like CRISPR to infect insects with modified viruses that could help make America's crops more resilient. If a cornfield were hit by an unexpected drought or suddenly an exposure to a pathogen, for example, insect allies might deploy an army of aphids carrying a genetically modified virus to slow the corn plant's rate, or maybe slow humanity's growth rate. It might even deliver the Z virus for us. Who knows what they can do with these wonderful little insect drones and genetically modified insects that have been injected with a virus to spread around. But according to the DARPA website, these targeted therapies could take effect in a single growing season, potentially protecting the American crop system from food security threats, yada yada whoop de woo. But members of the scientific community are skeptical. In a letter published in October the 5th rather of 2018, a team of 5 scientists voiced concern that the project could easily be exploited as a biological weapon, or at least be perceived as one by an international community. In our opinion, the justifications are not clear enough. For example, why do they use insects? They could use spraying systems. Silja Vonecki, the co-author of the letter and professor of international law at the University of Freiburg, Germany, told the Washington Post. To use insects as a vector to spread diseases is a classical bioweapon. Share if you agree. Insect allies is a biological weapon. But Blake Beckstein, the program manager for Insect Allies, and they also have double barrel names like that, these deep state psyop individuals, but he is the manager for Insect Allies, and he is less concerned. Anytime you're developing a new and revolutionary technology, there is also potential for, in brackets, both offensive and defensive capability, Beckstein told the Washington Post. But that is not what we are doing. We are delivering a positive traits, of course they are, to plants in what, their defense advanced research, their weapons, military type things, not really agricultural. So I think that's a little bit of a porcupine in a cover screen saying that they want to protect crops. But the Insect Allies still is in the early stages of development. In 2018, was it deployed in 2020 under the guise of a murder hornet? Can't say invasion, but infestation on the west coast of the United States in the early days of the pandemic. But where were we? It is in the early stages at time of writing, and at least 4 US colleges, all of those probably with links very much to the good old Tavistock Institute and the Ohio State University and the University of Texas, have received funding to carry out research. Beckstein told the Washington Post that the project recently achieved its milestone testing whether an aphid could infect a stalk of corn with a designer virus that caused fluorescence. According to the Washington Post, the corn glowed. And that is that. Rare daytime fireball creates a massive sonic boom over the UK. We might as well read that. We've got some asteroid related stuff here, because I think there's one that's due to hit or come close to Earth on this Sunday, March the 20-something or other. But rare daytime fireball media creates a massive sonic boom over the UK, and this was from 11 hours ago at time of recording, which was yesterday if you're watching, or I don't know when I recorded this, when you're watching it, but nevertheless, this is pre-recorded, as you know. There's a picture of the thing in the air that caused the sonic boom, or it may even be an artist impression, as I was going to suggest. But a rare daytime fireball media triggered a loud sonic boom across parts of the United Kingdom and France over the weekend. Devilspeak, I got a message for you on Discord saying that you've got a doctor friend that's been hearing sonic booms and stuff in your part of Oregon. part of the world, Oregon, where you are situated. But the sonic boom occurred at 2:50 p.m. local time on Saturday, March the 20th, and was reportedly heard in the southwest of England. I'm from the southwest of England, Wales, and northern France. And this is according to Sky News, the European equivalent of Fox News, owned by Rupert Murdoch, just the same as Fox. But at first, most people assumed that the noise was the result of jet fighters, but the Ministry of Defence quickly announced that this couldn't have been the case, according to the BBC. However, a handful of people on Twitter said that they had witnessed a bright flash of light across the sky at the same time, and thanks to satellite images, it was later confirmed to be a fireball meteor, said the BBC. The meteor was a bolide, the largest and brightest type of fireball meteor, and would have needed to be very large to be visible during the day. Richard Kakerkek, however you say that, from the UK Media Observation Network of Amateur Astronomers, told the BBC. On February the 28th, another large fireball meteor lit up the night sky over the UK and was seen potentially record breaking number of people. What is a fireball meteor? Well, a fireball meteor is a type of extremely bright meteor that emits a large equal or greater to that of Venus in the night sky. Fireballs burn brightly because of their size and speed, and most fireballs come from a parent asteroid that are at least 3.3 feet, 33 there, 1 meter across. As the meteor hits Earth's atmosphere, it slows down due to friction and heats up, releasing an energy in the form of visible light, according to AMS. The biggest and brightest fireballs like this one can be seen during the daytime, and because they often enter the atmosphere traveling faster than the speed of sound, they frequently create a sonic boom before they break apart. Several thousand fireball meteors burn through Earth's atmosphere every day. However, most go unnoticed because they are not bright enough to be seen. Sonic booms are normally an indicator that the meteor was large enough to land on Earth as a meteorite. Normally, when you hear it, that's a good sign that you have got rocks that have made it to the surface. Ashley King, a scientist with the UK Fireball Alliance, told the BBC. It's incredibly exciting, and I'm a bit stunned. But after the Feb 28 fireball meteor in the UK, a family in Gloucestershire helped recover the meteorite after it landed on their driveway. Meteorites such as this can tell us more about our solar system and why it was formed. However, some experts predict that it may have landed in the sea close to the Bristol Channel. So there was a little bit about an asteroid and something about the murder hornets, not the murder hornets, the DARPA insect allies. But we're going to go look at one more insect ally article before we look at some other topics of interest with All Out Apocolypse. So hold on to your britches, folks. Hey guys, so before we do go and look a little bit deeper into DARPA's involvement with insect allies and insect drones, let's just have a little quick look at some alien related content. We do intend to be bringing you a 2-part weekend special on Alien Agenda, although at this time of recording I haven't thought of titles for that, but I do have a couple of things lined up, and hopefully a panel and a special guest caller on the subject, maybe guest callers. But here's a little article from May the 22nd of 2020. Earth to face doomsday due to alien invasion if multinational leadership is absent. And this is a warning from an expert. And there's a video there that says that if you have this type of blood group, you're from an alien race. But I clicked on that while I was flicking through before I started recording. But many space experts believe that humans are not alone in the universe, and they claim that advanced alien species might be living somewhere in the deep nooks of the universe, maybe even among us, who knows. But if these advanced beings are now searching for life in the universe, there are possibilities that they could find Earth, and we cannot rule out a possible invasion in the future. And there is, will Earth face a doomsday due to alien invasion? And there's an angry looking alien attacking what looks to be a female in a spacesuit. But anyway, back to the article in regard. Clifford N. Lazarus, the clinical director of the Lazarus Institute, something we have mentioned and looked at before. And guess what? They do have some involvement in connection to good old Tavistock. But the Lazarus Institute believes that the Earth will be doomed if hostile aliens visit Earth. He also added that multinational leadership should prevail in the world if humanity wants to fight against the common enemy. And what he is suggesting there, the multinational leadership, is a one world order, a one world government, unanimous against the common enemy of the imposing alien threat. But it is critically important that we find a way to create a coordinated global response. Sorry, where are we going? Something happened there. It is critically important. Sorry, we moved down a little bit too soon then. My apologies. But we do need to create a coordinated global response to this mortal peril, because it will be almost inevitable not to be the final pandemic our world will face. Without rational, scientifically guided and cooperative multinational leaderships, the extraterrestrials will prevail and human civilization as we know it will be doomed, wrote Lazarus in his recent article published in Psychology Today. We're not going to click on that link. We might come back to that. But Lazarus also compared the coronavirus outbreak to a possible alien invasion that could happen in the future. According to Lazarus, the time of alien invasion is very much similar to the moments during a pandemic outbreak where humans should unite as a single species, irrespective of various barriers. If ever there was a time for joining forces and pulling together as a nation, a global community and a single species, one world order, this is it. COVID-19 does not recognize national borders or social boundaries. It will infect and possibly kill everyone and anyone, regardless of nationality, race, religion, gender, sex, age, education, wealth, social status, or political affiliation, added Lazarus. Not a lie if you believe it, Lazarus. But is the alien hypothesis valid? But before we do see that, something I will add is War of the Worlds, H.G. Wells, if you remember, back in the 1890s, that publication first started making its round in making people aware of a potential threat of UFOs to Earth. And it was the Earth germs that eventually killed the invading Martians. They didn't have an immune system to prepare them for the Earth germs. And is COVID-19 the Earth germs that will eventually kill the invading aliens when they do arrive, but do a little bit of depopulating before those Earth germs get them? But back to the hypothesis of alien agenda, and is it valid? Many conspiracy theorists believe that UFO sightings are authentic proof of alien existence, / my opinion, existence of advanced military, governmental technology and weaponry that we are unaware of. In any sort of technology that is greatly advanced, that we are unaware of, is indistinguishable from that of magic or perhaps alien advancements. But still, they argue that advanced beings from other planets could used to visit this Earth to monitor human activities and maybe sort of grab a few samples to go and probe on their motherships before they drop them back on Earth. But recently, investigative journalist Leslie Keane also shared similar remarks, and she suggested that alien hypotheses could be the best option to explain UFO sightings. The extremely advanced technology that the objects have displayed since the 1950s, they demonstrate tremendous speed and accelerations, the ability to make sharp right-angle turns, stand still, zoom off and disappear in the blink of an eye, and to operate underwater. They appear to defy the laws of aviation as we know it. since they have no wings or visible means of propulsion, says Keane. Read more. There you go. There's some additional articles there we're not going to look at, but that is the end of that particular alien agenda. And again, are we facing a doomsday from an alien threat? All part of All Out Apocolypse, and what we kind of saw in some of those quirky little commercials for Foot Locker and for Apple App Store was the All Out Apocalypse, particularly in the Foot Locker one. Meteorites, aliens, zombies, earthquakes, it was all going on all at once. And is that what is in store for us? So one little more looky look at some alien stuff before we go off and explore the wonderful world of DARPA and their involvement with tiny microscopic drones that look like insects and their genetically modified insect allies that are just out to deliver viruses to corn and save agriculture from floods and other bad insects. Not a lie if they believe it. Stay tuned, guys. We do got more interesting stuff coming your way here at Reality Decoded in All Out Apocolypse. All right. So here we are. One last little article on UFOs, and it says COVID-19 funding rules are more precise on UFO sightings than for arts venue. And this was written a week ago by David Penderend, if that's how you say it. Never mind. But this individual goes on to say the COVID-19 funding relief package is now being distributed more exact in its rules about a required report on UFOs than it is on application guidelines for operators of arts and entertainment venues. Just to sort of clear that up for you, that the funding for COVID-19 is putting UFO reports higher on the agenda of importance than it is on reopening things like bars, restaurants, movie theaters, that kind of stuff, you know, art galleries, museums, yada yada, whoop-de-woo. But the UF matter is spelled out plainly in the relief bill signed by by then President Trump on December the 27th, 2020. The federal government has 6 months from the date of the bill, from the date the bill became law, to deliver to Congress an unclassified report on all it knows about UFOs, according to a passage of the legislation. Is this going to give us the passage of the legislation? I believe so. Intelligence Authorization Act for fiscal year 2023. I'm guessing this is going to be very, very long, so we're not going to read it, but this is the bill here. I'm guessing that will be suggesting the inclusion of a UFO report, so you can see for yourself if you want to. But another irony about the 15 billion funding package for the arts is that terms are uncertain for an event some would celebrate. One of the nation's more sweeping public investments in the arts since the New Deal, the money is available to cultural institutions, including live music venue operators, theatrical producers, museum and movie operators, and talent representatives, according to the update from the U.S. Small Business Administration. The upshot is that some operators of small venues, including Dad's Garage Theatre in Atlanta Old Fourth Ward, are waiting until the last possible moment to select the relief program they determine will be most beneficial for their situation. The application deadline is March 31st. It feels like gambling, said Laura Smith, but operators who can't afford to wait may feel compelled to file under the Paycheck Protection Program, PPP. That can be more certain source of funding, but terms may be less generous than shuttered venue operations grant. The regulations aren't clear. The regulations are evolving. But it goes on to say that this Dads is lucky enough to find a place where we're okay from a cash flow perspective. Others had to pull the trigger on PPP because they needed money now. all of this is just for the application and for the relief funds. How banks will respond is an entirely different question. But some banks rejected or dawdled to process applications for federal paycheck protection programs filed under the CARES Act of 2020, according to a congressional report. The situation has become lost in the memory fog of the nation's response to the COVID-19 virus, and exactly the purpose of it is so these things get lost with all the misinformation and propaganda being spread about it, and the fact that they feel the need that more funding should be spent on UFO research than it should be on getting some of these small businesses back up and running is quite startling. But some of the bigger financial institutions left some small struggling businesses behind as the leaders acted under guidelines from the Trump administration, according to a report from the House Select Committee on Coronavirus Crisis issued in October 2020. The report identified three critical respects. Treasury private encouraged banks to limit their PPP lending to existing customers, excluding many minority and women-owned businesses. The SBA and Treasury filed to issue guidance prioritizing undiverse markets, including minority and women-owned businesses, and several lenders processed bigger PP loans for wealthy customers at more than twice the speed of smaller loans for the neediest of small businesses. And this is what we are in a period of: the corporate dictatorship takeover, the one world order under the guise of the militarized industrial complex, is why they are killing off these slowly and surely, these small businesses into debt. And then once they can no longer pay or can repay these debts or keep their businesses open, these businesses then become the acquisition of the government or the banks that lent them the money. In addition to the weight of the pandemic is adding to complications in this round of funding. One example is overload at the Treasury Department. The IRS is still processing 6.7 million tax returns filed for 2019 as of Jan 29th. Returns are being processed according to the date. But as for the mandated UFO report, this is the verbatim section that is included in this law: advanced aerial threats. The Intelligence Committee supports the efforts of a Unidentified Aerial Phenomenon Task Force at the Office of Naval Intelligence to standardize collection and reporting on unidentified aerial phenomenon. Any links they have to adversarial foreign governments and the threat they pose to the US military assets and installations. Notice they don't make any announcement of US citizens or public interest. It's just US military assets and its installations that they are more primarily concerned about, these aerial threats, unidentified aerial threats. But however, the committee remains concerned there is no unified, comprehensive process within the federal government for collecting and analyzing intelligence on unidentified aerial phenomena, aka UFOs, aka extraterrestrials, aka aliens. Despite the potential threat, the committee understands that the relevant intelligence may be sensitive nevertheless. The committee finds that the information sharing and the coordination across the Intelligence Committee, that's the alphabet agencies, guys, has been inconsistent, and the issue has lacked attention from senior leaders. Therefore, the committee directs the DNI, in consultation with the Secretary of Defense and the heads of such other agencies, as the Director and Secretary jointly consider relevant, to submit a report within 180 days of the date of enactment of the Act to the Congressional Intelligence and Armed Services Committees. My goodness, sorry, that was a long sentence. And that is on unidentified aerial phenomenon, also known as anomalous aerial vehicles, including observed airborne objects that have not been identified. The committee further directs the report to include a detailed analysis of unidentified aerial phenomenal data and intelligence reporting collected or held by the Office of Naval Intelligence, including data and intelligence reporting held by the Unidentified Aerial Phenomena Task Force, a detailed analysis of unidentified phenomena data collected by, and then there goes on a list of the things: geospatial intelligence, signals intelligence, human intelligence, and measurement and signal intelligence. They also require a detailed analysis of data of the FBI, which was derived from investigations of intrusions under the unidentified aerial phenomena data over restricted United States airspace, a detailed description of interagency processes for ensuring timely data collection and centralized analysis of all unidentified aerial phenomena reporting for federal government, regardless of which service or agency acquired the information. An identification of an official accountable for the process described in paragraph 4, identification of potential aerospace or other threats posed by the UAF or the UFOs to national security, and assessment of whether this UFO activity may be attributed to one or more foreign adversaries. They also require an identification of any incidents or patterns that indicate potential adversary may have achieved breakthrough aerospace capabilities that could put the United States strategic or conventional forces at risk. Again, nothing about the population being at risk. And it furthermore, and finally, recommendations regarding increased collection of data, enhanced research and development, and additional funding and other resources. The report shall be submitted in unclassified form, but may include classified NX. So just to classify, guys, all of this with regard to aliens and data collection and the sharing of all the information that these alphabet agencies find on unidentified flying objects, or whatever they've rebranded them as now, is unidentified aerial phenomenons, is being put ahead of reopening society. Okay, right? They don't want to spend the money on getting people back to work. They don't want to get these little small businesses out of the rut that they're in. They don't want movie theaters, museums, and art galleries to be reopening. They think that it's much more important to be spending millions of dollars to process a report and unilateral agency coalition on collecting data on aliens. So what on earth is that telling you? I will leave that up to you to decide, but it would suggest to me at least that they are prioritizing the UFO alien agenda over everything else that is going on in the world today under the COVID-19 scam, pandemic, psychological operation, false flag, elite generated, ushering in the new world order phase 1. And if or not, we're going to be seeing aliens, asteroids, and who knows, zombies in the not so distant future. Let's not rule any of that shit out right now, people. It could happen at any given moment, as we do seem to be choosing our own doomsday apocalyptic reality. Stay tuned, guys. Reality Decoded continues almost immediately. Okay, here we are at the UK Independent Newspapers website, and I'm not sure if you can hear, we do got a rainstorm going on outside. It's coming down quite heavily since I started recording, so if not, you can catch the soothing sound of freshly falling rain in the background. That might add to the ASMR effect for you. But anyway, the Independent here have got a website, sorry, of course they got a website, but they got an article on their website that says the US military plan to spread viruses using insects could could create a new class of biological weapon, the scientists warn. It's pretty much what we just saw in the previous article about this before we had that little interlude on the asteroid that caused the sonic boom recently, within the last 24 hours of recording. Again, this is from back in 2018. But insects could be turned into a new class of biological weapon using new US military plans, experts have warned. The Insect Ally program aims to use bugs to disperse genetically modified viruses to crops. But such an action will have profound consequences and could pose a major threat to global biosecurity, according to a team that includes specialist scientists and lawyers. Um, However, the the DARPA, which are responsible for developing military technologies in the United States, said it's merely trying to alter crops growing in fields by using viruses to transmit genetic changes to plants. Not a lie if they believe it, or if you believe it, I guess. But in theory, this rapid engineering would allow farmers to adapt changing conditions, for example, by inserting drought resistance genes into corn instead of planting pre-engineered seeds. But this seemingly inoffensive goal has been slammed by scientists who said the plan is simply dangerous and that the insects could be loaded with synthetic viruses or synthetic drugs like flakka, for example, that could be difficult to control or very, very hard to combat with if there were hundreds and hundreds of thousands of them deployed upon a heavily densely populated location. But they also say that despite being in operation since 2016 and $27 million of spending in funds to scientists, DARPA has failed to properly justify the existence of such a program. Of course they haven't. Given that DARPA is a military agency, we find it surprising that the obvious and concerning dual-use aspect of this research have received so little attention, says Felix Beck, a lawyer at the University of Freiburg. And he told The Independent, and that's what he told The Independent, rather, and Guy Reeves, a doctor and expert in genetically modified insects at the Max Planck Institute for Evolutionary Biology, said that there has been hardly any debate about technology and the program remains largely unknown, even in expert circles. But he did add that despite the stated aims of the program, it would be far more straightforward using the technology as a biological weapon than for the routine agricultural use suggested by DARPA, a military agency. It is very much easier to kill or sterilize a plant using gene editing than it is to make a herbicide or insect resilient, says Reeves. Also easier to kill maybe a human if you wanted to do so using this technology. But experiments are reportedly already underway using insects such as aphids and whiteflies to treat corn and tomato plants. Mr. Beck said, and fellow experts were not suggesting that the US military wanted to create biological weapons. Of course they don't. They just want to save the corn. That's all they want to do. Spending $27 billion to save corn. Think about that, people. Does that sound feasible to you? But that the proposed agricultural uses are simply but not plausible for a number of reasons. Firstly, they note that if farmers wanted to use genetically modified viruses to improve their crops, there's no reason not to use conventional spraying equipment. They also noted that despite DARPA stating that no insect used would survive longer than 2 weeks, if safeguards were not in place, the spread could in principle be unlimited. Mr. Beck added that quite obvious questions of whether the viruses selected for development should or should not be capable of plant-to-plant transmission, the plant-to-insect to plant transmission was not addressed in the DARPA work plan, and maybe, insect to human transmission of a disease. It says Air Force fails to acknowledge a mysterious meteor that crashed near a US base. But making the case to Journal Science, the team noted that if insect allies research cannot be justified, it would be perceived as breaching the United Nations Biological Weapons Convention. Because of the board ban of Biological Weapons Convention, any biological research of concern must be plausibly justified as serving peaceful processes. And that's probably why they're going out of their way to justify that it is serving peaceful processes by spreading viruses to corn in agriculture, not humans. Heaven forbid that a weapons military organization that develops weapons would use insects to deliver deadly viruses, or maybe even small tiny explosives that could kill individuals almost instantly and almost unforeseeably. But insect allies could be seen to violate the Biological Weapons Convention, and if the motivations presented by DARPA are not plausible. This is particularly true considering this kind of technology could easily be used for biological warfare, and to prevent any suspicion and to avoid encouraging other nations to develop their own technologies in this area. The authors of the study have called for more transparency from DARPA if it intends to pursue such programs. But a spokesman from DARPA defended the program, explaining that using insects to apply these gene altering treatments could provide advantages over sprays. I'm going to say advantageous. It could be advantageous over sprays, but most importantly, in this context, sprayed treatments are impractical for introducing protective traits on a larger scale, and potentially infeasible if the spraying technology cannot access the necessarily plant tissues. And a little bit like spraying a virus into the air, it might get dispersed and not make its target of the human. So if you can like deliver it directly using this little insect drone or genetically modified insects, then that would be a way to do it. And you, as I said, you could load them up with whatever virus you wanted, and deliver it unsuspectingly under the guise of a huge swarm of deadly insects descending upon a town or city near you. But if Insect Allies succeeds, it will offer a highly specific, efficient, safe, and rapidly deployed means of introducing transient protective traits, not necessarily protective traits, into only the plants intended, or maybe only into the humans intended, with the minimal of infrastructure required. Saving money is what it's all about. Now, they do also have insect drone programs going on to do exactly that, deploy a small payload of whatever they decide the payload could be, which could be delivered to an enemy. And these little insect drones can negotiate and fly their way through buildings intelligently. So stay tuned. We're going to have a little look at that right now as All Out Apocalypse continues here on Reality Decoded. DARPA tested a swarm of drones. This is a little article from back in August of 2019. The Defense Advanced Research Project Agency, DARPA, is experimenting with the use of a swarm of autonomous drones and ground robots to assist with military missions in a video of a recent test, which we just saw. DARPA showed how its robots analyzed 2 city blocks to find, surround, and secure a mock city building. Now, these weren't actually insect drones, but bear in mind they could do exactly what they did with these slightly larger drones with smaller ones disguised as insects, which look at momentarily. But they conducted this test back in June in Georgia, where the guide stones are, and featuring both drones and ground-based robots. The demonstration was part of DARPA's offensive swarm-enabled tactics offset, which was designed to eventually accompany small infantry units as they work in dense urban environments, and could eventually scale up to 250 drones and ground rule robots. The test back in June was the second of 6 planned tests, which DARPA said will increase in complexity as they progress over the next couple of years. And we are sort of a couple of years later since they did this. But while individual drones can be useful, a swarm of them would be more difficult for somebody to eliminate, especially if they got very, very smaller, the size of insects perhaps. But if they don't want to be seen, DARPA thinks that a swarm of drones would help with a complicated environment like a city where it's hard to see long distances. A large group of drones could provide some insight into a unit's surroundings. This is another example of how the military is exploring the potential that human/robot teaming could bring. Another Project DARPA Squad X program allows soldiers in the field to collect a considerable amount of information about their surroundings with the help of artificially intelligent drones and robots. The US Army has also begun to test the use of drones for infantry units. It recently issued FLIR drones. What is that? Flicker something, I can't remember. It's a camera that you see from above. Does it images, I think, infrared, or it sees into buildings or heat, I believe. Sorry about that if I got confused. Someone might be able to tell me what FLIR is, but that's what I pretty much think it is. Tiny palm-sized devices, and as I said, this is tiny palm-sized devices, which could be about the size of insects. Some insects will fill your palm, but they deployed these to the 82nd Airborne Divisions and the 508th Parachute Infantry Regiment, which can be used to fly ahead of soldiers and send back video and other data. The advantages of a drone swarm cuts both ways, however, and the US military has recently been testing out ways to eliminate enemy drone swarms. In June, the US Air Force showed off a new tool called Thor, a microwave emitter, again with those frequencies, designed to take down swarms of drones. Some of these defensive tools are already being put to use as well. In July of 2019, the US Navy used a new system called Marsa Lamadis, a light marine air defense integrated system, to down an Iranian drone that came within 1,000 yards. So there was an interesting little article there about drone swarms from DARPA. So let's go and look a little bit more about their insect drones. It could be used exactly as we just saw. Right here we go. DARPA insect and bird drones are on their way by B.J. Murphy, and this is from back in 2014. What the hell happened there? Get out of here, you. Sorry about that. But in the early 20th century, the White brothers made history in developing the world's first successful airplane, and because of them, people began flying in the sky using heavier than air vehicles, which remains a constant practice even today. And yet, over 100 years later, the prevailing technology by popular demand are drones, both military, unmanned aerial vehicles, and consumer-based drones. Not only has flight gone unmanned, but they appear to be getting smaller and smarter every year. Today's consumer-based drone is the size of a basketball as opposed to the UAV drones the military have used over the past years. But for DARPA, however, the drones have yet to reach their potential in size, i.e., drones will soon be the size of small birds and insects. The program aims to develop and demonstrate autonomous UAVs small enough to fit through an open window and to be able to fly at speeds of up to 20 meters per second, 45 miles per hour, while navigating within complex indoor spaces independent of communication with outside operators or sensors and without reliance on GPS waypoints, say DARPA. DARPA had recently issued a broad agency announcement solicitation for their Fast Lightweight Autonomy (FLA) program, which is said will develop a whole new class of algorithms that will ensure the stability and efficiency of flight in their UAVs. Similar to that of a bird and stroke or insect, they will be looking to engineer drones small enough to pass through open windows, smart enough to clear entire obstacles without error, and fast enough to cover greater distance under less time in comparison to previously engineered drones. If their FLA program is successful, DARPA hopes to apply them for urban and relief operations, which will require lengthy amounts of time without human intervention and a sufficient show of navigation in a cluttered environments. To achieve this, their goal is in developing drones that will operate similar to a ghost hawk, which can navigate through a dense forest without hitting a single tree. The goal of the FLA program is to explore non-traditional perception and autonomy methods that would give small UAVs the capacity to perform in a similar way, including an ability to easily navigate tight spaces at high speed and quickly recognize if it had already been in a room before. And that was from Mark Makaya of DARPA. Remember what we say, double M's, double barrel names. Unfortunately, a video has been removed. But the future implications are that the popularity of drones this year is higher than any year. Remember, this is back 2014. Before the military are using them for more often than deploying boots on the ground, whereas consumers are purchasing their own personal drones at a staggering rate. As a matter of fact, it was one of the most popular gifts received during the winter holidays, so much so that the FAA joined with other organizations in launching a website to ensure operators of drones abide by federal regulations and guidelines. Though these regulations and guidelines are in regards to consumer-based drones currently in the market today, how will the FAA, let alone the federal government in general, be able to maintain regulations of a consumer-based market of drones the size of insects? Eventually, we will have to throw in the towel and admit to ourselves that drones are just a way of life now. All we can do is create new laws and regulations that maintain our safety while encouraging open source access to drone technology. So as I said, guys, this is not new. DARPA have been trying to do this for some time and create insect drones, swarm-based insect-sized drones that could deliver either explosives or genetically modified viruses, potential COVID delivery system, or even the Z virus delivery. They could be delivering a dose of flakka. They could also deliver little explosions that blow people's heads off. So guys, all the technology exists. It's not too out of the stretches of imagination to believe and think that they could well possibly utilize this technology and deploy it for nefarious purposes and create a zombie apocalypse using insect drones, and then pass it. Oh my goodness, those murder hornets! They come in from North Africa to the west coast of the United States, and they brought with them a virus that turned Americans into zombies. Um, Not out of the realms of fiction. Could be the pages of our own reality very, very soon. As All Out Apocalypse at Reality Decoded does continue.
There's been a mutation, a new strain, and no, it's out of control. This is an ultimatum. Either we share this world with them, or we vanish as a species. Would you mind? You're not listening to me.
No, leave them no choice.
Little movie trailers there, a little bit of predictive programming possibly concerning killer bee outbreaks and swarms of deadly bees descending upon cities. And some of you may or may not be familiar of a big blockbuster movie from back in the 70s called The Swarm, which depicted exactly that, a big huge swarm of killer African bees that I believe descended on good old New Orleans down there in Louisiana. And in the end, I think they had to, was it New Orleans or was it Texas? They had to use one of the big stadiums. It kind of had a roof on it that had sort of air conditioning, and they lured the bees into the giant stadium and then turned the air conditioning on and froze them. But here we are at Giza Death Star. Cosmic warfare, and last little look on the insect drones before we do go and look at the a couple of asteroid related articles before we do wrap this up. But Mr. GB, and sorry, let's go back a little second there. Coming soon, insect drones, courtesy of DARPA, which we're already kind of pretty much aware of by now with the previous articles. But Mr. GB shared this one, and as you can see, it is made for the final cut in this 2-week period of email and article vetting, and this one is both fun and profoundly disturbing. Since the profoundly disturbing part concerns today's high-octane speculation, I'll leave it to you to distill the fun part out of this for yourself. But the rise of the insect drones. Now, when one gets past the computer modeling of insect wing behavior and the resulting vortices and resonance effects, one comes to this intriguing paragraph. Dixon and electrical engineer Ron Fearing won a $2.5 million DARPA grant in 1998 to apply these principles to a fly-size robot. They assigned a graduate student named Rob Wood, among others, to help develop the techniques to fabricate the tiny parts and painstakingly assemble them with a pair of tweezers. Dickinson and Fearing also communicated which aerodynamic insights the students should try to reproduce. Flies have a really complex wing trajectory, and there are a whole bunch of subtle things that happen, Wood says. Michael told us the most important feature is to generate vortices and other aerodynamic effects. So in other words, enter DARPA, the Defense Advanced Research Project Agency, or as we lovingly refer to it here, the diabolical the diabolically apocalyptic research project agencies, and are they developing technology for our own doomsday apocalypse, which might even contain murder hornets that are in fact insect drones, and a swarm of them descended with good knows with whatever payload they can deliver. But one wonders exactly what interest DARPA would have the ability to create insect drones for. And hang on a second, we are getting there, the article continues to say. But before we do, consider these paragraphs, and I think the evidence becomes the answer becomes self-evident. Sorry. Other researchers have used flapping wing dynamics to reduce the size of aerial vehicles capable of carrying payloads. In 2011, California-based Vernoment Diomand, and it made a nano hummingbird drone, that California company there with a funny name. But anyway, the aircraft has a 16-centimeter wingspan, and it can fly vertically, horizontally, and hover in place against gusting wind, and weighs 19 grams, lighter than some AA batteries. But it carries a camera, communication systems, and an energy source. TechJect, a company that spun off from work done at a Georgia Institute of Technology, recently unveiled a robotic dragonfly with a 6-inch wingspan. It weighs in at 5.5 grams, lighter than a quarter, and can be outfitted with a modular electronic packages enabling high-definition video and wireless communication. The TechJect Dragonfly takes advantage of an aerodynamic principle called resonance when the wings flap at their most efficient frequency, which happens when air density, wing speed, and an organism's weight are perfectly balanced. They create waves of vortices. I'm sorry if I'm reading that wrong. That merge and build. The audible result is the hum and the buzz. You know, when you hear a bee or a fly or something, that is what it causes that sound. The hummingbird or the buzz of a bee, says Janet Ratti, TechJet's president. A flapping wing drone utilizing resonance generates significant improvements in energy efficiency, creating optimal lift with minimal effort. So in other words, these tiny insect-like drones can carry publicly available camera and communication technologies. Now imagine taking these engineering techniques and replacing them with small, more life-sized and miniaturized technologies available to the military and intelligence communities. And with the requisite engineering, one would have a platform for surveillance or for the delivery of small surveillance packages. Is it a real fly speck or a microphone? Or even if one were particularly diabolical, remember we are dealing with DARPA here, a means of delivery of some nasty toxins via the mosquito bite of an insect drone. Could they be delivering us a corona-based virus pathogen, or could they be delivering us a Z virus-based pathogen, a synthetic drug that would turn us into mindless, raging zombies, willing and ready to tear each and every one of us apart? But thus, one can envision the impact on security as well. Room sweeps will now have to include making sure all the insects have vacated the room. See you on the flip side. But maybe a comment off maybe a comment off the topic. 4 weeks ago, the author bought a toy, a propeller-powered UFO, interesting enough, in a local toy store, only for indoor use, it said, by the text on the package. By the way, no spy camera put on it. What interested me when I was reading the text and what it was making my decision to buy it was that from the controller you could continuously power the battery in the UFO via infrared rays. Interestingly enough, and maybe, you know, is this what 5G is all about? That they are using this to power the technology, not cellular devices or Wi-Fi signals, but to infrared, to power by infrared waves, these tiny little DARPA insect drones. But whoa, I thought the ideas of Konstantin Merle had been adapted by the toy industry. Maybe I'm wrong, and there are Hertz waves that power the battery in this UFO thing. He has no instruments to find out about this. Anyway, my wife's pottery plants are projected to life in constant danger. Robert Barraclough wrote a short story in 1976 of a genetically engineered black widow with a diabolical engineered poison. It was controlled and engineered by pheromones that the widow could target. The hit was carried out by first placing the pheromone on a target area, and then the assassin was released to the winds. The widow parachuted through a window, and you get the picture, but the story was never published. A possible new toy, the Assassination Bureau, called the CIA against victims, aka enemies. Once they solve a duration of a flight project, the motto will be bugged to death. On the good side, this might lead to better aircraft in the future. Another interesting comment here. They've also developed these drones to communicate with each other like swarm-like insects, hive mind mentality in artificial intelligent microscopic drones that can fly around and deliver payloads. Speaking of nano surveillance and warfare, I have been clutching the citation above for years, and this is from Emlong and published in 2018, I think. But this individual has been clutching the citation for years as a chemtrail researcher and originateur. It has always been of great interest in developing theories about the totality of the chemtrail project and what it might be, the various uses of this. In this article published in a scientific journal, PubMed, there is evidence that the barium nanocrystals, a typical component of chemtrails, might be used in many ways once the crystals have lodged in the nervous system via inhalation. For one thing, barium nanocrystals are piezoelectrical and could render the host susceptible to acoustic weaponry, a rapidly developing aspect of crowd control. DARPA and its partners have been demonstrating these insect spies for years now. Okay, as time passes, cameras get smaller, lighter, and better. Same with the mics. But there's the energy source problem. Without real over Unity technology, these bugs won't fly for much time. So there you go. That is it on the DARPA insect drones and insect allies, guys. Make of it what you will. But the technology to deploy designer pathogens, I guess, designer viruses to an intended target, be that plant-based, as DARPA would like us to believe, but more than likely it is probably human-based targeting that they are going to use this insect technology for, and the fact that they have been for some years now. And back in 1998, they developed a little grasshopper-sized drone. You can go and watch Murder Hornets, What's the Deal with that video, over on TSP TV, a video uploaded last year regarding DARPA's involvement with insect drone technology and research alongside the Murder Hornets and their announcement. So that's it, guys. As I said, we've done now with the insect drones. Let's go and have a quick look at some asteroid related articles before we wrap this up.
They were supposed to be watching the skies. Instead, the government was watching us.
When did you know that your project was just another illegal global surveillance program?
Dad's the biggest whistleblower since Snowden. And people hate him.
Now, the Earth is in the path of extinction.
I want to know why we didn't see this coming.
It's a dark asteroid. And the one man who knows the truth,
It's a planet killer.
is an accused traitor no one will believe.
There are millions of lies at stake.
I want facts, not theories.
I need you to help me break into my old lab.
You serious?
End of the world serious.
We have a security breach. This way!
Russia's about to get hit by a meteor storm.
Then Berlin.
Then London. second wave of destruction will be the dark asteroid. Mar Vista Entertainment presents Mark Lutz, Robin Dunn, Anna Van Hooft, and Lachlan Monroe.
I am so sorry.
In an explosive thriller that will shatter your world. Asteroid.
In 1908, it flattened hundreds of square miles. It's been blamed for the extinction of the dinosaur. Scientists are wondering, could it happen again?
Mr. President, I've got some very bad news.
Like a vast minefield in space, traveling 34,000 miles an hour on a collision course with Earth.
If we don't break it up or stop it, millions of people will die.
Asteroids so big, so powerful, so close.
My fellow Americans, the National Observatory discovered that a number of asteroids now pose a significant risk to our planet.
Are the asteroids going to hit? I don't know. Honey, I'm really scared.
But how can the entire world prepare for the ultimate disaster?
Police, fire, and medical agencies have now been put on full alert.
We have to get these civilians out of here!
A world hoping for a miracle.
These things can come right down on your head, and there's not a thing you can do about it.
The human race will be lucky to survive.
Now, without weapons powerful enough to destroy them all.
We've got thousands of pieces coming at us.
And with families torn apart.
Ben! Ben!
You all just stay in the basement!
My father and my son are out there. Mom!
The only thing they have to hold on to is each other.
The inevitable is here.
Because the sky is falling. From the producer of Predator, Waterworld, and Daylight, starring Michael Biehn.
Welcome to your worst night.
And Annabella Sciorra.
We gotta do something!
NBC's highest-rated blockbuster miniseries since 1988 that captured over 75 million viewers.
Hang on!
Where an earth-shattering disaster can tear the world apart, but not the will to survive. When courage is tested,
Grab my hand.
and heroes are born. The end of the world is just the beginning.
Is anyone here?
Who will survive? Asteroid.
There we saw a couple of cheesy made-for-TV trailers for Asteroid Media related doomsday apocalyptical fiction for you. And of course there was the more famous Armageddon with Bruce Willis, Ben Affleck, and Aerosmith's daughter Liv Tyler. Nearly forgot her name there. And of course the song that accompanied that that I can't remember now, and not even going to attempt to try and sing it, but you know the one that I mean. Way back in the 1970s there was also another movie named Meteor that starred Sean Connery. Very similar concept. Earth doomsday. Earth was facing a doomsday event in the form of a large meteor, and the united forces of planet Earth come together to detonate some nuclear missiles on that planet and thus saving the day. But here's an article from this week. Doomsday asteroid is heading towards Earth. Here's when you can see it with your telescope. And there is an artist rendition of an asteroid, but the most devastating event in Earth's history as far as life is concerned was the mass extinction that followed the impact of a colossal asteroid. That event is the reason the dinosaurs aren't around today, and perhaps more importantly, while mammals had a chance to boom, and why we are all here today. But now that we are here, it would be nice if we could avoid a future asteroid calamity, and one of the more threatening space rocks in our neck of the stellar woods is known as 99942 Apophysis, and again, if you turn the 99 upside down, you've got 666. But apophysis, get the. Oh, I hate it when it does that. I don't know what happened there. Sorry about that. But a phosphophis is a large rocky body thought to be around 1,000 feet wide. That's big enough that it would cause a catastrophic damage if it were to strike our planet. On Friday, March the 5th, a phosphophis or Apophis is scheduled to make a close approach to Earth, but the good news is that scientists have already determined it won't hit us. And that's probably what we did, clicked on that little ad there. But the name of the asteroid may seem familiar, and that's probably because it stole headlines after scientists couldn't rule out a collision between Earth and the space rock when it makes a pass in 2029, 1 year before 2030. Will it be that final nail in our depopulation coffin that will see the utopian United Nations 2030 finally get their desired depopulation amount for the elites that remain on the planet to live in perfect harmony for the rest of their days? I don't know. But 2029 is when it is supposed to make its pass that could be fateful. But thankfully, a closer look at the data revealed that the asteroid doesn't actually have a chance to hit our planet this decade. Future flybys are also looking safe for Earth, and astronomers have essentially ruled out the possibility that it will cause any trouble for us in the next century or so. Still, Friday is going to be a pretty exciting day for both professional and amateur sky watchers, as Apophis is big enough that it will be able to be seen by higher end and hobbyist gear. Obviously, scientists studied asteroids have much more powerful observational hardware at their disposal, and we're getting an up close and personal look at this meteorite as it makes its pass roughly 10 million miles away. At that distance, it is several dozen times farther away from Earth than the Moon is, but that won't be the case with the asteroids when the asteroid returns in 2029. In April of that year, Apophis will come much, much closer and actually be closer to Earth than some of the most distant Earth orbiting satellites, if only for a moment. It can reach the distance of 2 astronomical units, something, something, yada, yada, whatever. But it will be incredibly interesting to see what astronomers can learn about asteroids from their observation of Apophis. An asteroid coming that close to Earth without hitting it is a huge treat for scientists, and they will surely take advantage of it. So that was one particular article on doomsday related asteroid events, although it isn't exactly that perilous. Why won't we go back? I'll tell you what, I'm going to stop the camera and we'll come back and look at some other articles. The article that we just looked at BGR from 21 days ago, which is not recent, but there are a few asteroids that are supposed to be coming through, and this is the news section of my search engine, DuckDuckGo, and you can see quite a lot as we go up to the top here is about asteroids that are going to come close to Earth. So let's go to the very top and read some of them. Asteroid close approach. Space rock flies by closer than the Moon, and that was 20 hours ago on the Daily Express. An asteroid the size of a semi-truck and 2 other space rocks are flying by Earth today, and that was yesterday at time of recording. See the jumbo asteroid that flew by Earth after NASA told us to chill 2 days ago. There was a 15 days ago asteroid watch, nothing interested there. The biggest asteroid to visit Earth in 2021 zooms by our planet unusually fast today. 4 days ago, there large asteroid to safely zip past Earth again. 4 days. Huge asteroid zoomed past safely. Large asteroid to pass Earth this year will be moving unusually fast, and that was again 4 days ago. Kilometer wide asteroid will blast Earth this weekend at an extraordinary speed. Asteroid safely flies, so one's just been by, another one's on its way. No threat to Earth as huge asteroid zooms past. Asteroid 2001 F032 is the largest asteroid to fly by Earth in 2021. And it goes on. Large asteroid of the year will be passing Earth. Potentially hazard asteroid to come close this Sunday. Largest near Earth asteroid of 2021. and it goes down and down and down. So pretty much all of them are saying the same thing, that asteroids are on this way. 680-meter wide asteroid is approaching Earth today, and that was from 22 days ago. So you know, in the last month or so, just a little bit like there's a lot of interest about zombie apocalypses, and that's a sort of, you know, around the time that the CDC re-emerged their zombie preparedness information on their website. So let's just look at this one about this. The largest asteroid of the year will be passing Earth this weekend. And there's a picture there. I don't know if that's an actual photograph of an asteroid or an artist's rendition. Who knows? It says images via Getty. But the biggest asteroid of the year is set to pass Earth on Sunday, March the 21st. I think that's been and gone. But rest assured, this is not another pre-apocalyptic event to cross off your 2021 bingo board. And this is what I'm saying. They're making jokes of these doomsday events. Choose your own disaster. Choose your own apocalypse. Share if you agree we should be invaded by aliens. Share if you agree you'd rather see a zombie outbreak. Roll more than a 6 to see if you want every single possible end of days doomsday scenarios at one time, and take your chances with whatever you can carry with you in your immediate close proximity to survive that end of days scenario. But according to Live Science, scientists say that the large asteroid be whizzing by the planet at a very safe distance with no chance of impact on our surface. Named the 2001 FO32, the huge space rock is about 2,230 feet wide, but will not get any closer than 1.25 million miles. In Never a Straight Answer Twitter account says, get those telescopes ready. On March 23rd, asteroid 2001 FO32 will pass safely by Earth, giving astronomers a good look at a relic from the dawn of our solar system. Don't know what that is. Is that a device of a telescope, or is that some kind of looking glass technology? I do not know, but there's no chance the asteroid will get any closer to Earth than the 1.25 million miles. Paul Chodas, the director of NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratories Center for Near-Earth Object Studies, said in a NASA statement, the asteroid was initially discovered in 2001 and was thought to be much larger than it actually is. The asteroid will be traveling at approximately 77,000 miles per hour when it passes Earth, and scientists hope to ping frequencies, once again frequencies guys, off it to better understand the surface and makeup. But when it passes Earth on Sunday at 12:03 p.m. Eastern Time, it will also be visible to people who aren't space experts. The asteroid will be brightest while it moves through the southern skies, Choda said, and amateur astronomers in the southern hemisphere and lower northern latitudes should be able to see it using moderate-sized telescopes with apertures of at least 8 inches. Be sure to check it out because next time it will pass is 2052. So as you can see, guys, quite a lot of information about asteroids and incoming objects destined to fly nearby Earth. And that is again one of the ones from a long time ago. So as I said, guys, we're not going to spend too much time on the asteroids. You get the picture. Are these asteroids a true threat to humanity, or are they just, as I said, things that come near Earth that are really cool to look through telescopes at? But that's it, guys. We're not going to look too much into aliens because that is the plan for the remainder of this week at Reality Decoded. We'll probably do a 2-part Alien Agenda special where I do hope and have plans and intentions to bring you another panel show and maybe even a guest caller. So look out for those. But as of now, we are going to return right back live in a very few short seconds to the Thrift Store studio, where once again Reality Decoded will recommence live with me, your host, TSP. See you in a very short few. Okay, welcome back, everybody. That was this evening's featured content, feature presentation, whatever you want to call it. If or not that was of any interest to you or not will remain to be seen, but I think some of you did open your eyes a little bit at one point in that to the realization that, my goodness, a defense agency research project corporation is spending an awful lot of time, effort, and money in genetically modifying insects to deliver genetically modified viruses, as well as carrying out experimentation in insect drones that also can deliver a genetically modified virus, or even worse, a small explosive payload. So pestilence, famine, all of that stuff from biblical times, you know, swarms of locusts, asteroids hitting, UFOs arriving, zombies rising from the dead. All of this stuff has been featured in an awful lot of content. It was featured in a lot of those commercials that we saw in that presentation. More importantly, there is a lot of this content making the headlines and news articles on the interweb out there, if you do a search beyond what you see on your Facebook feed. But as I said, let's get rid of that. It was the presentation. Turn the camera back on. But we're trying to sort of connect the dots, people, that why or not all this is being, you know, pushed into the news and into mainstream limelight a little bit, because once upon a time this really was basement dwelling conspiracy theory shit. But now everybody is all up, certainly in the alien agenda. The zombies, you know, make of that what you will. We did a whole weekend of streams on that. Hopefully you should be very informed and knowledgeable on the possibility and the reality that this could very well happen. Now let's take in consideration what we just saw this evening. Particularly we did look in depth at the murder hornets, partly because the next couple of lights we will be looking more at the alien side of things. But tonight is all about the insect drones, the insect allies, in the announcement of the murder hornets. Now again, this is all stuff I've been talking about and telling you about over the year, and it has to have some purpose and meaning to be hidden amongst this. In COVID is really the big smokescreen. It is the control factor, the problem that will generate the reaction. In order to the psyop to work, people have to choose a side of the problem, either for, yeah, we need vaccines and masks, no, we don't need a vaccine, we don't need a mask. This is your controlled reaction, and they provide all the materials to keep us occupied fighting that battle that is pointless, effortless. We're not getting anything out of it. People can wear masks if they want to. If they don't want to wear a mask, it should be up to them. It's pointless getting involved in this this battle of nothingness. But it's a cover. All of this stuff has been going on behind that smoke screen of COVID-19. And what if, you know, Aztec was mentioning in there that sort of mosquitoes in can deliver malaria. Well, what if they're not mosquitoes that come from Africa? What if they were genetically modified mosquitoes that were built in a lab in the United States somewhere, hidden away underneath a shopping mall perhaps, and then just out of no reason they let them go into the atmosphere and see what happens. It's very hard to point fingers at insects in genocidal events, if you see what I mean. What can you do? Insect repellent, you know, you get a bee suit, you can't do that. And more importantly, something Devil mentioned, and we are going to get you on the phone very shortly, Devil, so stand by. Be sure to turn your volume down on your computer if you're listening to this in the background, because there will be a bit of an echo. But he mentioned that they can target it. Exactly. Just imagine a little tiny insect-sized drone with all your information, knows what you look like, knows where you live, knows what your daily routine is, that can follow you around, and when it feels necessary that you need a little bit of re-education, it can zoom down, bomb, hit you in the side of the head, deliver whatever payload it is. It exists. We just saw it exist. They have that technology. Do you really think the United States government and the DARPA organization are putting all that money just to save crops of corn from floods in other locusts? seems a little bit of a stretch to the imagination to me. And again, there are certain treaties and guidelines regarding biological warfare. You're not allowed to to create such weaponry, but dual purpose, we can create it under the guise of helping agriculture. And again, what does a defense agency do in dabbling in the realms of agriculture, right? Don't they have departments that deal with agriculture? Shouldn't they be looking into ways that they can prevent, you know, crops being damaged? And again, with all this weather modification, that's damaging crops. They can send these insects out to damage crops. They can genetically modify them purposely to do that, right? Starting the famine. This is, you know, all the stuff from End of Days prophecies is making headlines in today's reality. And what is the purpose of all of it is what we're trying to do, and is it somehow connected? Now, the other thing you could also do with these little drones is you could deliver a dose of COVID if you so wanted to. You know, it doesn't take much of a stretch of the imagination to, once you've got the delivery system and you know that it can deliver whatever you put into that system, you can put what you want in there. You could put a good, strong, concentrated dose of flakka, send a whole swarm of those little drones out above a highly densely populated area, perhaps a protest or something that's going on below, zoom them in, zap everybody, and all of a sudden, oh my goodness, the African bees come and brought everybody zombie-itis, and we didn't know anything about it. Endless possibilities, and when you're the deep state and you don't really give a shit, and you're all about the draconianness of things, then the more draconian the better, I'm guessing. Your arsenal of weaponry is all about. And I've seen something there about you got attacked by tarantulas, Devil Speak, so that's a bit disturbing. But anyway, guys, you know, is that out of the realms of possibility or the imagination to think that? OKT, what are you OKTing? Do you think that that's a possibility? Do you think that they've, you know, if I'm an idiot in the basement that smoked too much weed and too much time on the internet researching this stuff, if I can sort of put that plan together in my mind, don't you think somebody up there will be able to think of that plan, or hasn't, you know, maybe even wrote it down and put it into theses? It's worrying times, guys, and you know, what do you do? You know, what do we are we choosing our own reality? Are they throwing every End of Days at us? And you know, are these asteroids, make of that what you will, they can tell us whatever they want about asteroids coming close to us, and you know, they can project what they want with all these satellites and shit that they're throwing up into space. Elon Musk, he's got a whole fucking arsenal of satellites that most likely are drones, as you were saying, Devil, up there, and they could quite easily project holograms for us to see. But I got a lot of stuff in recent UFO sightings that we will be seeing tomorrow, a little teaser if you want to come back tomorrow. But Devil, if you're ready, my buddy, I'm going to get you on the phone now and see what you got to say, because you've witnessed some of these swarm drones being tested. So that'll be interesting to hear what you've got to say. It's always good to hear what, you know, the viewer's perspective, because sometimes it does get a little bit lost with the text going on there. So hopefully
your long distance call. To avoid this message, please dial 1 before a 10-digit long distance number. Thank you.
So we're ringing Devil now.
This is Mike. Leave a message.
Well, that didn't work very well. We had to leave a message. Let's try again. Are you ready and waiting, Devil? Give me a thumbs up. Oh, here we go. Hang on a second. Hey, that's cool. I can call you back if you need to. But glad to have you back on the show, Devil.
Yeah, thanks for having me again.
No,
I was listening to what you were just saying about it. I can think of it. You know, they've already thought of it, and I've thought that very thought a million times, man.
That's what I'm saying. It's not out of the realms of possibilities. And you know, you've even witnessed firsthand some of these drones, and it seems to be that you're out in Oregon, right? I'm originally from Louisiana.
I am now.
But you're in Oregon now, and it's very interesting that these swarm of drones are being tested sort of in your neck of the woods, and also in your neck of the woods recently they found a hive or a nest of murder hornets, which we did actually feature in the early part. I think you arrived after the fact. We saw that, but that was in your neck of the woods. Do you think somehow this could all be connected?
No, not those two. What I saw was in two different areas. I wasn't here I was in Oregon when I saw the second ones, but I was in Phoenix when I saw the first ones. And just the whole setup with the first ones was weird. And I had about 5 people sitting next to me and saw them with me.
Right, so it was
during lunch, in the middle of the day. And the drones that I saw they were big enough to where I thought they were hang gliders.
Okay, so they're kind of large. I mean, that was the thing. Once upon a time, like the military drones were very large. They were like sort of the size of a very small aircraft. But that was back in the 1990s. Now they can get them sort of microscopic. But
right. But the point was that what I saw, I'm pretty sure, is back when the technology to have them swarm together without flying into each other was in its infancy, even though the drones were big. And that's the other problem, man. I was telling the guys in the chat, it was over Sky Harbor International Airport. All right, that's the wrong place for them when you've got right down the street, you got Luke Air Force Base. The other way, you got Williams Air Force Base. There's a naval bomb testing range just outside Maricopa County. Then there's 2 Air Force testing ranges towards Ajo, Arizona. And there's a hang glider. I mean, if nothing else, they could have gone off in the desert and done it where their hang glider proving grounds are, away from all of that.
So that's a lot of like military type installations.
And there was like 100 of them, see? There was 100 of them. And I watched them for about 5 minutes along with 5 other guys.
And how long ago was this?
I'm thinking 12, 15 years ago.
So quite some time. This isn't recently. Then, and you were saying there's a lot of air bases around that area. So that's a lot of kind of military.
Well, not just that, but you're talking about DARPA and everything. And I don't know if anybody really knows this, but me in the chat and everybody, but the Apache helicopter.
Yeah.
That's built in Mesa, Arizona.
Right.
That's just down the street from Phoenix. There's all these cities are clumped up right next to each other, nuts to butts, man.
Because they do seem to like their sort of desert locations, right? Sort of Nevada, Arizona, even Texas. There's supposedly some of these sort of secretly based.
A lot of proving grounds because the air is sweet for it. The temperature, temperature gets a little out of hand, but usually the air is dry and clear, right?
Yeah,
so they do a lot of laser testing out there too.
It's perfect conditions, like you say. They don't have to worry too much about clouds in rain and bad weather. They can see what's exactly going on, and it's usually miles away from prying eyes. So that was one experience. You said you've seen these drones. What was the other one?
The second one was cool. There must have been at least 1,000. And I saw this right after I heard. Now, a lot of people were freaking out when they saw them because they didn't have any kind of clue. I'd already been looking into them, watching TED Talks. I had them flying around the room.
Yeah, that's right. They do.
Yeah. And right after that, I'm trying to give you a timeline here this time, a little better timeline. Right after that, we had the Chinese Olympics. And they had the most drones in the air, synchronized, doing the dances all at once.
Yeah, and they made shapes and things in the sky, right? That was very spectacular. But at the same time, you could put that to quite some nefarious uses.
Well, what I'm getting at is what I saw was pretty cool. Okay, if you imagine, remember the little rubber band wind-up airplanes we'd get?
Yeah,
balsa wood.
And then throw them, right? Yeah.
Okay. Imagine you've got a soccer ball, okay? And the middle, the soccer ball is cut in half. All right? And this soccer ball is made of titanium, something that bullets won't be able to penetrate very easily. All right? And these blades are made of a type of fabric that's actually like a honeycomb material. So, like if you were to shoot a popsicle stick with a bullet, it just shatter.
Right.
A bullet's likely to just go right through this and not damage it too much. And then, so in the middle of this thing that looks like a silver soccer ball size, cut in half, the very center, I wonder who's listening to this, man. Like, how's he know this? Okay. So imagine a little propeller like you get on one of them little wind-up planes with rubber band, except there's two. Because the damn thing won't be stable worth a damn if you only got one propeller. So there's actually two, and this is what was messing everybody up. And they're just spinning in a circle like there's nothing weird going on. It's just the position is inside this ball. And one propeller is spinning one direction, the other propeller spinning the opposite direction to achieve balance and a gyroscopic stability. Does that make sense?
Yeah, Dev, because there's some helicopter, the Chinook's got two propellers, right?
No, sir, you're not thinking right. That's got a propeller in front of the fuselage and another on the tail section. Right? Great big one. That's the banana-shaped helicopter you're talking about.
Right.
No, I'm talking about, I don't know if you...
I mean, I'm trying to visualize
the two. Okay, here you go. Here's a plane that uses it. The Russian T-38 Bear. It's the Russian version of the B-52, but it's using turbojet propellers, turboprops.
Okay.
And there's two blades, and one blade turns one way, and the other blade turns the other. The blades are right in front of each other, right? Like, you know,
like this. Sometimes those little planes used to have two propellers, the ones you're talking about with the rubber bands. Is that kind of what I'm thinking? They're like on top of each other?
No. Because what's happening is they're turning in opposite directions of each other. They've got opposite pitch and everything. The only modern example I can tell you is a Tu-65 Bear. I believe it is a Russian bomber. And if you look at the front on those propellers, if you find one that's sitting still, it's going to look like that propeller's got 8 blades on it. If you look close, it's two propellers.
2 4 blades. Okay.
They're right in front of each other. They're right next to each other, man. Not in tandem, right there on that one axle. See what I'm saying?
Kind of. This is where visuals would be a great assistant, but don't let us deter you. Keep going. Maybe
it was right in the middle of the soccer ball, and they were all flying in unison. And see, the thing that I saw a long time ago that I don't know if anybody's familiar with is when they first started this AI. They had like a big shoebox, like a ping pong table, and they had it framed off so their little robots couldn't fall off the edge. And all these guys were little balls that kind of rolled. And they could program them to make shapes, and they could program them to make words. They could do all these little things with these AI robots. And then they started getting like a hive-mind kind of intelligence with them, right? But they weren't 3D. You see, they couldn't think like you have to think when you're flying in an airplane. You know?
Yeah,
you're not worried about up and down when you're on a car or in a box on a tabletop. You're not worried about up and down. You're still worried about left
and right, back and forward, right? But up and down is a different. So they could
up
only
and down,
kind of.
That opens up a whole shitload can of worms, dude. And that's what I think I saw them trying to do. I don't know if something got away from them in Phoenix, but out here, the ones I saw were doing a really good job, man. It looked like a freaking cloud, man. It didn't look right. And then everybody that got up close, because see, I didn't see them that close. I found a picture of them, And when I saw the picture, I started giggling because I know what those are. It looks like a very practical design to me. Somehow I caught on to it right away the second I saw it. It's just like a soccer ball. It's about that big, it looked like. And you put the blades for the two propellers in the middle, and they spin on the outside of the ball in opposite directions to maintain a balance and direction. And then it's probably gyroscope like they put in any rocket or ICBM or whatever, just a little small chip. Doesn't have to be that hardcore. And it stabilizes. And they were flying around really good, man. They weren't bumping into each other. They all moved at the same time. It's pretty weird.
So
it's pretty weird.
It's not like there was lots of individuals controlling each and every one. They were just controlling themselves, right? They were just...
Not only that, T, but now that you jog my memory, a lot of people picked them up on radar. Now that I remember, and they were seen over like Tennessee also.
Right.
Seems like. Now that I remember, yeah, it was somewhere back east, like Tennessee or Kentucky, maybe.
And this was in the daytime, right?
Yep.
So
they photographed them there
because recently there's been there's been a trend or something on TikTok, or I don't do TikTok. I don't know what it's about, but there's a lot of these kind of swarm thing, like orbs, but a whole bunch of them in the air, like making shapes and triangles and whatnot. Now, potentially what you're saying, a silver ball shape, you could like put that in the air. It doesn't necessarily have to be that high up to give the, it's like forced perception. We might think that it's in the higher atmosphere when it really is just a few hundred feet above the ground, right? But the size of it would make it look smaller. So we might be deceived into thinking it was something larger outside of the atmosphere, if that makes sense.
I've got something that not too many people have, buddy. I had glaucoma, or cataracts. And they removed the lenses in my eyes. This is probably freaking everybody out. I had to watch this stuff, guys. Oh, yeah, I was awake for the whole thing. So, because they had to tell me to hold my eye still or look left or look right while they were cutting onto my eyeball with a knife. That's pretty cool, huh? And it's probably freaking people out. I got acrylic lenses. So my bad eye is like 2010. My good eye, my bad eye is 2015. And my good eye is 2010. And both is way better than 2020. And I'm really good with guns and stuff, and I've been doing it all my life. I'm a really good judge of distance and size. And I can totally agree with it's hard for the general public to be able to judge size on something like that. And especially when there's nothing next to it to give you like a quarter or a Bic light or something you're familiar with that you can judge with.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, you could have, funny enough, a couple of weeks ago, I was meeting with some of my buddies and we were using a drone to make a little video for something else. And it was hovering in the air, and it had little lights on it and it was nighttime, but it looked a whole lot higher than it really did. And once I saw like, holy shit, what's that in the air? And then all of a sudden, oh, it's the fucking drone. It's only, you know what I mean? It looked a lot farther away. So,
I put a picture of a UFO my buddy took a picture of in Discord, and he took it down the street from your house, buddy.
Really?
Not my house. Up there in Canada. Yes.
I checked the Discord.
I think I messed up and put it on the wrong Discord, T.
I'll go and double check it because I want to put some stuff. As I said, we're doing some more alien content the next couple of days. In anyone who's got because there's so many reports of UFOs. I'm pretty sure that in one of your states somebody's seen a UFO recently.
I've seen like 20 UFOs, dude. I've seen them off and on all my life. I have seen some weird stuff. I've seen them in Sedona, Arizona. And I'm not that kind of guy. I don't know how this guy sounded some of the people in the chat. I really got my feet on the ground pretty solid. I'm a biker, you know what I'm trying to say here? I go hunting and fishing and drink beer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, and I've seen this, man, so it messes me up. I saw a UFO once that for some reason, I had a friend with me, and he saw it too. And I was in the middle of nowhere, and there was no traffic or nothing, and I was going to shoot my guns. That's why I was in the middle of nowhere. And that's the other point. I freaking had guns with me, you know, and I didn't stop. I was in a four-wheel drive. I could have pulled over and gone down in those woods and checked that sucker out. It was the size of a 747, dude. And my buddy doesn't like me to mention that story.
Well, I think that's one of the things in modern times that I think a lot more people who are what would be considered grounded are a little bit more open to aliens, whereas possibly 20, 30, 40 years ago, if you talked about aliens and you believe in their existence openly, then you would be very, very frowned upon. And now it is they're sort of saying, oh, let's expect it. It's almost a given that it's about to happen. And with sort of this declassification, not just from the United States government, the United Kingdom government, Australian government, I also believe New Zealand, all of these governments have released UFO related documentation. There's got to be a purpose for it. For decades we've been told no, nothing to see in the skies, and all of a sudden we're almost being told to look at the skies. Yeah, there's stuff up there, you've got to pay more and more attention. And certainly since the dawn of the pandemic, there's been a whole lot more mention of aliens and UFOs, almost, as much as, if you really do want to look into this, there's almost as many UFO related stories as there are COVID stories. And now on top
the Tic-Tac. Are you familiar with the Tic-Tac everybody's seeing now?
Yeah, that's one of the websites, and there's a craze going around on TikTok. And it sounds a little bit to what you were kind of...
TikTok on Tic-Tac. No, this was a saucer. Most of what I've seen have been saucers.
No, prior to this, not the saucer, but these...
Except the problem with the Tic-Tacs I've seen, they weren't big, and they were orange. And they were hauling ass, dude.
That's right.
And both times I saw them, I was in a situation where if I'd seen an explosion or something, the first one looked like an explosion. And it was in the swamp. And yeah, I know, you're thinking swamp gas and all that, guys. But I don't care what Nancy's thinking. Anyway, yeah, when I saw it, it looked like an explosion. It was bright red, and then orange, and then yellow. And when it turned yellow, as it shot up, straight up into the atmosphere, it turned white from that bright yellow. And there was no noise. And I was not close to it. I was like maybe a half a mile away from it, but I could see it clearly. And I had a friend, we were sneaking out when I was a kid.
Well, there's something recently that there's been a couple of recent sightings. We're going to hear about those a little bit more tomorrow, all being well. But they sort of broke the speed barrier without making any sound. They've had a couple of sightings recently where they broke the so I mean,
the last one I saw was in Sedona about 20 years ago. It broke the speed of sound easily and made no sound, and it was orange. It was glowing orangish red. It looked like if you make a tracer with your cigarette.
Yeah, like kind of when you move it around in the dark, you can make, like a sparkler, you can make letters and things and shapes.
Yeah, I've seen several, man. I've seen them high up in the atmosphere where they let something out, and I watched it for like 6 hours. As it got towards the horizon and the sun was starting to come up on the other side, I saw the thing it released come back from the other side of the earth. It looked like dock with this thing, and then by then the sun was coming up, and I couldn't see it take off like a rocket or nothing like that. The sun kind of started blinding me by that time, but I watched it for 6 hours.
Yeah, there's got to be something to it, right? Because most people know somebody or have seen something themselves, or know somebody that's seen something, and it's you can't rule it out, right?
Well,
and certainly in 2020,
I've thought of things like this, T. If I was government and I had the money and I really wanted to make some really cool weapons, what I would do is I would start a patent office, and anybody that came up with any kind of anything would have to file a patent. And if anything really neat came across that patent office desk, they let me know about it. I'm the military. Okay, so I want to know when something cool comes across. If you got now, they got algorithms. So you file for a patent now, and you got something like nuclear in the algorithm. Fix it up, and it sends it straight to be looked at a little more discerningly. And then now you've got touch screen phones. Where do you think that came from?
Yeah,
You know, when I went past that UFO, that wasn't too long ago. I had a 40-acre ranch in Ash Fork, Arizona. Huge place. And everybody, there was like nobody, nothing around, just desert, high plains desert, like Clint Eastwood movie, all right? And, excuse me. When I saw this UFO, it was just like we were getting ultra low frequency. I don't want to say very low or ELF or anything like that. There wasn't anything we could feel. I got an imagination that you could probably feel some of that other stuff happening to you, like a boom at a concert, you know? It gets you from the inside out. You can feel that. And my buddy he refuses to even talk about it. I bring it up to him all the time. Probably brought it up to him 2 weeks ago, if I remember right. And I wouldn't pull the truck over. We weren't scared or nothing. We were just, oh yeah, big deal, UFO, keep going. I'm like, yeah, you're right, keep going. It's like, what the hell, man? I couldn't believe me and my buddy, two big old burly bikers with guns. You know what I'm saying?
Right. So, let's jump off the aliens a little bit for a moment, and sort of, because I'm going to wrap this up in the next sort of 10 minutes or so. So I do appreciate the short notice you kind of coming in. With regards to, let's just sort of try to keep all that we've spoken about tonight, you have a little say on each and every matter, perhaps. What do you think on like the possibility of a zombie apocalypse and the fact that they could use these tiny little insect drones to deliver the flacker to a crowd of people? Would that be
your
something?
problem's more with your cell phone, dude, and frequencies. What's been happening to the whales and dolphins, I believe, is sonar in these big bad submarines. There's another part to the sonar you guys might not know about. It's called a location ping. And instead of being quiet and everything and listening with this sonar, they can send a high frequency wave traveling at thousands of miles an hour right through the water. Now I'm thinking this thing is basically bruising the frontal lobe on these whales and dolphins. And it's giving them bad judgment. And
this is why they wash up on beaches, right?
Yep.
And you hear quite a lot of that happening from time to time, like not just one, but a whole bunch of them.
Too much electronic warfare happening in the ocean. That's what it comes down to. So what I'm getting at is you transfer that to something like those big that you showed 2 videos ago when I caught it anyway. The big microwave dish in the back of the airplane.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Like a satellite
okay, imagine
dish.
something like that. That was a microwave dish, so you can't do it with that. That's going to burn you and make you want to run away from an area. It's aerial denial system.
Yeah,
is what
that's
that is.
what it's called. They use that in crowd dispersal.
Yeah, I don't know what they call it. I know what it's supposed to be. I don't look into it that
they
much.
They can turn it up just like the microwave in our kitchen.
I kind of know, but I kind of know. So, I've known a lot of crazy people, guys. That's all there is to it. I've seen some stuff, done some stuff. But, yeah, it's pretty freaky what I think we're in for next, dude.
Yeah, for real. Sorry, Callie's just mentioned like there's also birds that are dropping out of the skies and stuff. That could be similar because a lot of bats use sonar, for example. Although they're not birds, they're mammals. But birds, they sort of use a little bit of sort of the sound of their song is like a frequency that guides them, right? And this could all be disrupted, and be an explanation as to why we're seeing them fall out of the sky. But anyway, let's wrap this up. As I said, it's nearly 3 hours long, and I do want to get some supper. So I do appreciate you jumping in at the very last minute with your thoughts and experiences.
I had fun, thanks.
Say again?
I said I had fun, thanks.
A lot of things?
I said I had fun. Thank you.
Oh, sorry, God, I couldn't hear you correctly. Then you had fun. No, definitely. We're trying. I mean, I've got hours to fill the next couple of days. So if you want to come back and talk about some aliens, I'm pretty sure everyone would like to hear what you got to say. 'Cause you do provide a lot of interesting information as a caller. So do appreciate that. Devil, if you want to say your goodbyes, and then I'm going to get ready to wrap this up for this evening.
Yeah. Hey, good. Thanks for having me, and you guys take it easy. I'll see you in the chat. I'll see you next show.
Thank you
Later.
very much, Devil. Appreciate your call, my friend.
Right.
So there's some good stuff. An impromptu caller. We've already delivered you one guest caller this week. Thank you very much for your time, Devil. And that's what I'm saying. Sometimes if you do want to be a caller and you've got some information, show it to me before, and then maybe we can figure a way of getting it on the screen while you're calling, or maybe we can even pre-record the phone call and put it as part of the presentation. Well, I've got a lot of ramen noodle recipes on the other. I don't know, I've got about 30 of them over on TSP TV, but Reality Decoded is a little bit different to TSP TV. You know, we sort of concentrate a little bit more on mysteries and conspiracies and stuff like that, not so much of the pantry building and things that we did see on TSP TV. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with that. It's going to be my bigger backup channel probably, and I'm finding it a little bit more refreshing here on Reality Decoded. It's kind of crazy. You know, I've got 4,000 subscribers on TSP TV. Lucky if I get 50 views. Got 66 or something subscribers here at Reality Decoded, and sometimes get 73 or more views. So you know, view for viewer return is a lot better here than it is over there. And you know, sort of talking about glasses half full, half empty. If you change the glass, the Reality Decoded glasses overflowing is as opposed to just having a residual viewership on the brim of a much larger subscriber base. But as I said, guys, we are going to be delving in more to Alien Agenda for the next couple of nights. Hopefully we will get the Wench Wrenches, Becky and Maiden. Maiden was out in the middle of nowhere with her brother and family this evening. No Wi-Fi while she was absent, and poor baby P did have a 14-hour shift in I did tell her to go home and get some rest, but she did want to come and be a little bit part of the chat this evening. I think she must have fallen asleep. At one point we had 15 watching, down to 8 now. But I find, you know, as I said, this is a little bit more of not necessarily taking things more seriously, but just sort of going and a little bit more sort of trying to make things presentable, trying to provide a little bit more information, still have a little bit of fun in community spirit, but TSP TV, I think, in my sort of delusions of grandeur, trying to be a one-man TV network rather than a channel, it was sort of maybe stretching myself or spreading a little too thinly. So I'm sort of concentrating a little bit more here at Reality Decoded in using TSP TV as a backup channel. But as I said, guys, if you are on Discord, if you are on Facebook, you've got any recent UFO sightings or alien news or false topics or even previous experiences, and you want me to feature them in the next couple of days, then send it either to Reality Decoded group on Facebook or put it in the Discord. But as I said, maybe we might be better off dropping the reality and being gardening decoded. There was a lot of gardening chat going on earlier, maybe even a little bit of guitar decoded, although I'm not a musician and my fingers aren't very green other than the green that I roll. But while most people had their hands in the dirt growing plants, I had my fingers knuckle deep in vagina. Never mind, guys, we will see you back again tomorrow at 9 p.m. Eastern, where Reality Decoded will continue with All Out Alien Agenda, where we do have some interesting recent development stories and sightings from overhead, and hopefully we'll have a lot more interesting interaction, a little bit like we did last week with the zombies. Aliens do seem to be a topic of interest. Most people can get on board with that. But this evening we did talk about All Out Apocolypse, we looked at the possibility they could descend swarms of genetically modified or even insect drones upon us that are loaded up with viruses or even tiny little explosive packages. Could this be the delivery system for the Z virus? Could that be how they pass off and explain the zombie outbreak? Oh my goodness, we were under pandemic conditions, and the killer bees with their stings, and they stung people. And who knows, we may even have, like in The Simpsons, rabid dogs that when they bark bees, and the bees that they bark sting with zombie viruses that turn us all into undead corpses. But anyway, guys, let us get the little dancing girl up into place for you all. If or not you enjoy it. We did have a new intro, but only 2 people saw the new intro today, and I do also have a special alien themed intro for you for the next couple of days. Do enjoy putting those together just for my own entertainment, if not necessarily for your enjoyment. But as I said, guys, this was Reality Decoded, brought to you by Ship Video Productions. We'll be back again tomorrow, Saturday night, the 27th of March 2021, for All Out Alien Agenda. If you want to be part and parcel of that, get your Arnold calls and information to me ASAP. But until then, guys, take care, keep it thrifty, take it easy, and most importantly, be excellent to one another. See you tomorrow night.